Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Yeah. All right. Show can start. Nancy Burns is here. Just told me to behave. Yeah, right. How you doing? Spade Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yes, how you doing? Today's Wednesday, October 8th. 279 days into that Gregorian calendar for KJCR. From the Dark Matter Radio Network, I am your humble host, Jimmy Church. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us, defending that Constitution and our right to freedom of speech. I almost said to bear arms. Listened to too much Bill Cooper last night. Wow. I listened to a really rare Bill Cooper seminar I had never heard before. I didn't know it existed. Like 8 hours long. Oh, man, he went there. Podcast is all updated. Got Graham Hancock up there. All updated. Go subscribe to the podcast. Help support the show. Help to keep me from going to the dark side. Oh, man. Talked about that yesterday with Kay Cassidy. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, I think we've got the YouTube video posted. And I'm just telling you what my memory says. I think I went there. All right. Let's get this cracking. Everybody ready? Scott Wolter in the house tonight. America. I almost said earlier, America Unearthed. Scott Wolter. But it doesn't roll off the tongue right. America Unearthed. Scott Wolter. Doesn't work. So you got to say Scott Wolter from America Unearthed. Am I right with that? I just don't know the correct vernacular. Where's Google when you need it? What is the correct vernacular for America Unearthed? Scott Wolter. He'll be with us tonight. Totally excited. What a great way to cap off another amazing week here on Fade to Black. L.A. Marzulli, the Giants in America, and the Nephilim, and his research, and Bible history, and ufology, and connect that and roll that into Graham Hancock last night, and all of his just amazing research. And what do? Scott Wolter tonight. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to thank Scott's wife and all of her hard work. Tried to get Scott on for a couple of months. And we pulled it off. And so very excited about that tonight. I will do my best to not sound like a fanboy. Because me like Scott Wolter. And he's very, very cool. Very cool guy. All right. Let's get this cracking. This is the thing. As everybody knows, tonight we are flying out immediately after the show tonight. We shut this studio down, a car will be waiting outside, and we are being whisked away to the airport. And we will be gone for the next 4 days. We haven't done anything like this in a while. Well, not since Contact in the Desert. But anyway, missing a show tomorrow night. And Keith, before I forget, rerun Graham Hancock tomorrow night. That's if I have a choice. Do I have a say in this? Do I have a say in this? I feel bad, Fader night and everything tomorrow night. So, but I think everybody needs to hear Graham Hancock again. What does everybody think about that? All right, so I'm just going to glance over to Twitter here in about 10 seconds once the delay is run through. What do you guys think about that? We will do Graham Hancock again tomorrow night. But anyway, flying back, my brother is getting married, heading to Columbus. Yeah, I'm going to be in some ill-fitting suit in the wedding party, and I'm totally excited to get back to Columbus and see the family, and Rita and I get to hang out with everybody, eat lots of Midwest food, and do all of that. But think about this. We're going to get through this show, and then bam, bags are here at the studio. I'm serious. We are literally. Flight is at like 12:30. The show ends at 10. You do the math. We've got to get from the studio here in Burbank all the way to LAX and then go fight the TSA good fight and somehow get out of here, fly all night, and get to Columbus tomorrow. So there you go. For a wedding rehearsal dinner and wedding rehearsal tomorrow night, immediately from the airport, go and do that. And then the next day, the wedding. And then what do? We just turn around, fly back, and then we start the show again for next week. Yee-haw! It's going to be good. Okay, so everybody is down for Graham Hancock tomorrow night. Everybody, I'm reading here as everything is flying by. Okay, all right. So everybody's down for Hancock. Okay, Keith, there you go. You cannot deny the Fader knots. You cannot deny. Okay, so we'll do Graham Hancock tomorrow night. Today, check this out. Chevy Chase, 71 years old. Chevy Chase. Now, all of his great movie, okay, Saturday Night Live, okay, all right, I'll buy into all of that. But there's only one Chevy Chase movie we need to concern ourselves with, and that is Caddyshack. That's it. And he almost wasn't in the movie. Him and Bill Murray reportedly, went to blows on the set. Those two guys were competitive back then. And it almost didn't happen. Think about that. The magic almost didn't happen. But it did. And it turned out, I think they kissed and made up and kissed and made up. Chevy Chase, 71 years old. Today, Sigourney Weaver, 65. 65. Yeah. All right, I get it. She made the list, right? Because of aliens, more aliens. Nope. She made the list because of Galaxy Quest. And never, ever forget that. I've got one job on this ship. One job. It may be stupid. Sigourney Weaver. She's awesome. Matt Damon, 44 years old. I'll say it again. Yeah. Saving Private Ryan, all the Bourne stuff, Oceans. I get that. But his best? Dogma. Yeah. All right. Last night I had fun with that trivia on Twitter. So I'm going to test everybody tonight. I am going to throw out a question that is either very simple, and the only person that can't answer this is Dale Romero. He's not allowed. So, Dale, do not post. You can't do it. You'll ruin it for everybody. So, Dale is out of the mix. But this is either very simple, and we'll get about 50 quick answers in Twitter, and I get that. or all of you are going to be in Wikipedia trying to figure this out. Okay? So here is the trivia question. What was, oh, you know what? If Nancy Burns gets this first, you guys are all doofuses. This is a good one. This is a test. I want to see where my crowd is. I want to see where everybody's at. You ready? Okay. Dale, spoil alert. What was Van Halen called before Van Halen? Tick tock, tick tock. Got 10 seconds. What was Van Halen called before Van Halen? In the event of a tie. Ooh, evil Rick Sinnott comes in. Wow. Okay, let's see. Oh, nope. Rick Sinnott. Nancy Burns comes in with the Ramones. That's about right, Nancy. I'm with you. I hear you. Okay. Now, in the event of a tie, I was going to do this. I've got a call coming in. Whoa, did I say open lines? 2 calls coming in. What? Oh, man, we're out of time. Okay, I'm going to grab this. Let's just see who this is. You're live on Fade to Black when I didn't say open lines. Who is calling?
Hello?
You're live on the air right now.
Is it Mammoth?
Who's calling? Who is this?
This is Ben, first-time caller.
Hey, Ben, this is what I want you to do. You are going to email Rita at jimmychurchradio.com right now and give her your address. Okay?
Okay. So is that right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And any first time caller that calls in with that and gets it right gets a really cool gift from the junk drawer. Okay? All right?
Okay.
So
I also want to say real quick, ever since I started listening to you, you've addicted me. I mean, I've been learning stuff on the internet for the last 10, 15 years, and it's just better than going to the movies.
Hey, Ben, I really appreciate that. And it is. It's kind of like heroin, isn't it? The first hit is free, and then that's it. You can't. There's just no turning back. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what do I do?
Just Rita. Yeah, just go Twitter or go to our website. Just email Rita. What city were you in?
I'm in Centennial outside of Denver. I'm not on Facebook or Twitter.
Okay, so just email us directly, Rita, and you're outside of Denver. Okay, I got it right here, man. I got the notes. Okay, take care of business, Ben. And
where's the email at on your website?
It's just go to the website. There's 5 different places to click. Okay?
Oh, okay. Okay.
You'll figure it out. Thank you, Ben. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Oh, I almost hit Ben with the my secondary, just in case there was a tie. Fader crack. Donna Colvin, fader crack. Yeah. Oh man, who was, and this is a really good. This is for if you're a Van Halen fan. Who was their second choice for vocalist? And Eddie said, with David Lee Roth, who was the other choice? And Eddie said that they actually wanted this guy first. And it's called irony, the definition of irony. Yes, Rick Sinnott did get it first. And Rick can have whatever gift he wants out of the studio. He knows that. Rick has got something coming in the mail. Rick Sinnott. I'm just saying, a first-time caller calls in like that and brings it, we get into the junk drawer. Okay, who was first? Jimmy Church. No. You've never heard me sing, Jonas. All right. Oh, man, I almost hit coffee. We've got stuff to do. Where was I? Okay, I just did trivia. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Let's get this show going. At JChurchRadio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Come hang out in the sandbox. It is a great, fun thing to do. You can email me throughout the show tonight, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. You can also go over to the website, just like I just said to Ben. Go over to the website. Plenty of places to click. You can go to the contact page, click on microphones, have some fun, scoot around the website. There are plenty of ways to email throughout the show. All of it goes through the producers. You make it good, and it gets read, and it gets into me. Let's take a quick break. The more breaks we take, the more we get done, the faster the show goes, the quicker we get to Scott Wolter from America Unearthed. This is bespoke radio for the masses. Sooner we get this show done, sooner I'm on a plane tonight with my beautiful wife. Heading back to the Midwest, we're going to eat meatloaf with lots of gravy. Maybe some mac and cheese. That's what I'm talking about. I miss Indy. I miss Ohio. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us, everybody. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Fade to Black, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, you have tuned into the latest phenomenon in late night talk radio, Fade to Black, starring the inimitable Jimmy Church, showcasing his continuing quest in pursuit of knowledge of the strange and paranormal. Sit back, open your mind, and let's get cracking.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Digging all of Van Halen knowledge tonight, but some of it is wrong. This is Fade to Black, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am your humble host, Jimmy Church. Welcome to everybody listening around the world, all across this great country of ours. North to south, east to west, back and forth, up and down, hither and thither, to and fro. Welcome. Evil Rick just posted Pat Benatar was second choice. No, it wasn't Pat Benatar. Your memory is fogged. It was Patty Smythe from the band Scandal. She was an alternative, but she wasn't the other choice. The other choice originally was Sammy Hagar when he was in Montrose. And it's kind of weird how life works, isn't it? He got the gig 10 years later. So anyway, that was my alternative question in case of a tie. Okay. All right. Let's go. Wow, I'm just jacked up. It's going to be a great show. Always. Graham Hancock last night. Graham Hancock in here, and I ended up calling it The Interview because I just wanted Graham to go into a zone that he just doesn't normally go into, and he did that last night. He got comfortable, didn't he? He pulled up the chair, broke out the cigar, little scotch maybe, and just let it hang out. L.A. Marzulli, Rick Shaw, what a great week. And everything that we covered this week, and we're going straight into it and continuing it tonight with Scott Wolter. And I'm totally fired up. These are the subjects that interest me, not necessarily the most, but it just does. They're all equal, all even. All right, let's get to some email. This came in from Ed Z. He says, just recently discovered your radio and love every show. Excellent stuff. I've been searching the esoteric narrative since my first sighting of a UFO many years ago. Since I have absorbed just about everything I can handle in all forms of the medium, listening to your shows and others alike it, I believe that all this subject matters of the fringe are a guide, an oracle of one's matrix, if you will, only showing what one needs to know, to walk the path, to keep on rocking. And remember, to stand up and shout when necessary, and love everyone as much as possible. Ed Z, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I get so much email all day long, and you pause and you read something like that's exactly what we're all about, isn't it? This family of ours. I'm going to take over, man. We're going to take over. Oh, man. This email from Shannon, and I want everybody to, I didn't have a chance because this just came in, but I raised an eyebrow at this email. So, with all of our Fadernauts out there that are listening, I need you to do a Google search on this, or maybe somebody knows. I haven't had a chance, but I want this raises an eyebrow. Shannon says, Jimmy, would you please do a show about music in 528 hertz? I have never heard about that. I thought that I knew. When it comes to music, mystery, hertz, frequencies, and everything else. And I read that, and I had to post it. So, what is the deal with 528 hertz? Not K-hertz. She has hertz here. 528. It's a very specific frequency. Very specific. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to try to glance over here at Twitter and see what everybody has to say. This email came in from Brent in England. He says, hi, I just thought, do you think, this is when somebody types, I don't edit. I read exactly as the email is sent. So let me give this another shot. Hi, just a thought, but do you think the intruder could be a false flag event so that they have an excuse to bring in new laws and security by scaring the public? Also, the Ebola epidemic getting to America or other countries could also be a false flag so they can sell vaccines. Now, he's referring to Sandy Hook. And music 440, 432 huge is huge. Topic 528 is Palladium. Okay. All right. Keep it coming. I'm watching all of this. Just keep it coming. 528 hertz. Very interesting. Keep it coming. The reason why, for me, and I got a bunch of email yesterday about my comments that I made on Carrie Cassidy's show yesterday afternoon before Fade to Black. And the theory behind gun control being behind Sandy Hook, and that would ignite something. The reason why that just doesn't hold water for me is that is not Nothing would cause that to happen, for us to lay down arms. Wouldn't happen. And let me give a couple of examples why. First off, it's our right. Our founding fathers, the reason why we are allowed to take up arms, and whatever arms means, pitchfork, whatever it means, is to keep Washington, D.C. in check. Okay? That's why. It will never happen. The day that even comes close to being a whiff of reality is when we cleanse Washington, D.C. I am not some militia guy. I'm not about any of that. I'm not new. That's not even what I'm referring to. But what I'm referring to is that's our right. To or not to, but it's our right. It will never happen. Never. They say never. I'm just telling you right now, it will never happen. Ever. The one thing that the black market and crazy criminals love to do is sell stuff that is illegal. There's a lot of money in it. Just imagine the guns made in other countries that would be smuggled in here every single day for sale. You're not going to disarm anybody. Somebody wants a gun, they're going to get it. It doesn't matter. End of story. So that's it. That's why when it comes to Sandy Hook, and that idea being behind Sandy Hook is just dumb. You know, to me, it's just dumb. There could be a million other reasons behind it. Am I saying that the government doesn't lie? They lie to us every day. Could they have lied to us about Sandy Hook? Sure, absolutely. I haven't seen evidence of it. Everything is circumstantial, just winged out, wingnut stuff. Okay? And I know, I'll respect CTM and John B. And I know he just did a show on this too. And I know, I understand. I can listen. And I get the reasons why. There's a mountain of circumstantial evidence that is up about Sandy Hook. I'm just saying nothing's bona fide. So all of it can be explained away in my mind's eye. When it comes to 9/11, everybody, please understand, I want to be perfectly clear. When you go up in front of the United Nations and lie and get caught, that is evidence. You perjured yourself. There's all kinds of things behind 9/11. Factual stuff. Facts. I'm not talking about atom bombs and hologram airplanes and no, I'm not talking about any. There's so many different ideas, but the basics are very simple. They knew, and that's it. That's where the story ends. That's where it ends. How, what, when, where? Well, that still needs to be figured out, but we know that they knew, and that's a fact. And why? I don't know. Was it money? Was it the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan? I don't know. I don't know these things. I don't know. Halliburton to go and make a bunch of money, go and rebuild a country after we bomb them into the Stone Age. Was that the motivation? I don't know. Certainly, Saddam Hussein seemed to have control of that country. Look at it now. It's out of control. We shouldn't have done what we did. Should have left it alone. So what were the motivations? I don't know. Was it money? Was it greed? Was there something else? I don't know. But Sandy Hook, gun control, it just doesn't hold water for me. It just doesn't. And I don't want to be that guy. And I said this yesterday on Carrie's show. I don't want to be that guy that starts believing and buying into some of these crazy Sandy Hook theories, and then to have some family contact me and say that, our child died there. What are you doing, dude? I don't want to be that guy. I just don't want to be that guy. I'm a dad. I don't want to be that guy. So that's it. Until something comes up. One of those children shows up and he's alive and we do a DNA test and it turns out that nothing happened. That's a whole nother story. We find out that there were other conspirators involved and it was proven and admitted to it. Or we find Adam Lanza on an island in Fiji, and he's alive. He was never. I don't know. But until then, everything is circumstance. I just don't want to be party to that, and this show won't be. Okay? All right. Let's go. Let's get this cracking. Let's get out of here. Let's get to Scott Wolter. Let's have some fun. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your humble host, Jimmy Church. We are only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Are you afraid of the dark? Don't move. Don't touch that mouse. You are listening to Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark Matter.
Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Yeah. You know what that song means. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Let's get this show cracking. I'm fired up. You fired up? Twitter, are you fired up? Email, it's already coming in. Let's go. Forsynic geologist Scott Wolter is the host of History's H2 Channel's hit show America Unearthed, which follows him on his quest to cover the truth behind historic artifacts and the sites found throughout North America. Scott is also the author of several books, including The Kensington Rune Stone, Compelling New Evidence, and The Hooked X, Key to the Secret History of North America. Scott has been president of the American Petrographic Services, Inc. since 1990, and has been the principal petrographer in more than 7,000 investigations throughout the world, including the evaluation of fire-damaged concrete at the Pentagon following the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Are we going to go there tonight, Scott? In 2005, he co-authored The Kensington Rune Stone, Compelling New Evidence. I would like to welcome to the program the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Wolter. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. That was quite an introduction. Sorry about the tongue twister.
Yeah, that was a made-up word, Scott.
No, it's not. It's for real, man. I'm telling you. Petrographer. Principal petrographer.
Petrographer. Petrographer.
Right.
Wow. Good stuff, man. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate your having me on, and I'm ready to tackle anything you want to throw out there.
Well, let's do all of that. I want to have some fun first, and also I'm looking over at Twitter and looking at everybody's reactions about you, coming on the show tonight, and that speaks volumes. This audience of ours is here to learn. And they're very smart. And I say it every night, but and they're fired up.
Well, that's great. I can tell. I just posted one little thing, and my Twitter just blew up. So obviously, you have a lot of very dedicated fans that are interested in some of the things that we do. So that's great. I'm glad to be here.
It's going to be great. All right. So I announce I try to with every guest, and for the new listeners out there. And the audience that may be tuning in for the first time, this is just an open-ended conversation. A couple of friends sitting in my living room, and we're just going to talk. Wherever we start is where we start. Where we end is where we end. And if you and I find it interesting, then so will everybody else. And I'm ready. You fired up?
Absolutely, man. Just bring it.
Okay. If I'm going to throw a softball out there, slow pitch, underhand,
all right.
and throw something out at you, it would be this. And I just want you to be straight, because you are you're doing what all of us are doing right now, and which is you're rolling that rock uphill. You're going against the grain, and you do it every single day. That takes a lot of energy. You're fighting the good fight. But what made you could have gone another road? You could have chosen an easier path, Scott, and certainly there's easier ways to make $1. So you chose this one. Why?
Well, I don't know so much if I chose it or it chose me. Life has its way of just taking you where it wants you to go, I guess, and. I didn't plan this at all. It just happened, and it started with that damn Kensington Rune Stone that walked into my lab in 2000. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. I certainly didn't know about the controversy and the taboo subject matter that it was a part of. I knew nothing, and I found it to be an interesting project, but really nothing that was, the Pentagon to me is probably what I'll be remembered for when my days are done. But it was an interesting project, but nothing, that interesting really at the start. And I did my work, and I followed the evidence trail, and I reached a conclusion that it was old, therefore it must be genuine, because you really only have two options. Either it's the hoax like everybody said, or it's not. And if it's not, then it must be real. And clearly the weathering was old. I said it was real, and I thought I was done. I was ready to move on. But the reaction that I got from a lot of people was confusing at first, and then it got nastier and more testy, and quite frankly, it pissed me off. And I got to a point where I said, what is wrong with these people? Why don't they see what is obvious to me, what the evidence clearly supports? And so then I made it a mission to figure out, what is the problem? And that's what started the journey. And here we are 15 years later, and who would have realized where it would take me?
Well, when I first heard about the Rune Stone, the Kensington Rune Stone, it was one of those moments for me, and I can't remember how long ago. I don't know if it was before 2000. It's possible, but it was a long time ago for sure. And I remember thinking, okay, here we go. Finally, that was my thought. Finally, here is, this is something that is going to be researched, and it's going to make headlines around the world, and now we can get Europe involved, and we can discuss ancient history in the United States before 1776, before Columbus. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
It just didn't seem to. It was like it came from all directions. As far as, I hate to use the word debunking, but it seemed like the system wanted to do whatever it could to bring the story down. And I don't understand that. And you and I were talking about that earlier today. It's such an important subject that nobody wants to concern themselves or worry about or consider or think about ancient history in the United States. It's like it doesn't exist, so they don't want to discuss it.
Yeah, I mean that's what you come away thinking when you start to drill down into this and take a closer look at it. But all I can tell you is I've seen some of the most bizarre behavior by people who I think most people would consider to be what are supposed to be the brightest in our society and around the world. And I've been dumbfounded by the way some of these people have behaved. But some of it is not their fault. And I'll give you an example. We're talking about the rune stone. This stone is so immensely complicated from so many different, angles and directions. I mean, literally, I could teach a college course on the Kensington Rune Stone, and I'd probably need a whole year. And I'm not kidding. But I will give you one example of something that happened that...
can we come back to that for a second? We probably put the cart before the horse here a little bit.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, for everybody, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to 1898. Let's talk about the discovery and what is for those out there that don't know. Possibly, I don't know how they couldn't, but that don't know what the Kensington Rune Stone actually is.
I can do this pretty quick. Well, in 1898 in western Minnesota, outside of a very small town, I mean literally a train station, a jewelry store, a grocery store, and a church, a little town called Kensington, Minnesota, there was a farmer there by the name of Olaf Ullman who was homesteading about a 100-acre parcel of property, and he was clearing trees in the extreme eastern end, and he tipped over this roughly 30-year-old poplar tree, cut off the roots at the base. He took a winch, he tipped it over, and directly underneath the tree, tightly wrapped in the roots, was this 202-pound stone that pulled out of the ground when the tree fell. It was his youngest son that noticed that there was an inscription carved in it. They didn't realize it until later that it was carved in Scandinavian runes. They thought it was an Indian almanac at the time.
How big is it?
Pardon me?
How big is the stone?
The stone is about 31 inches long, about 15.5 inches wide, and 5.5 inches thick. I know every detail about this thing. And weighs 202 pounds. It's heavy. I mean, it's like the size of a medium-sized tombstone.
Sure.
And it's got a long inscription carved in runes, and it was long thought to be a tale or a journey of 30 Norsemen into the interior of Minnesota on a journey of discovery. But, that's not even what it says. It turns out that from our work, linguistically with my co-author Dick Nielsen and my geological work, we made some pretty profound discoveries. But anyway, back at the time, some of the scholars studied a copy of the inscription. The first ones never looked at the stone. They looked at a copy that was made by Olaf Ullman, and they saw some problems with the language, and they quickly dismissed it as a modern hoax. And what's important about that is it set a very important precedent. These top scholars in the world back in 1899 reached a conclusion, and man, I'll tell you what, that's like you said, pushing the boulder up the hill. This is like pushing a mountain back up the hill. Once these guys have put their foot down, I mean, their predecessors do not and will not question them and embarrass their predecessors, especially over in the Scandinavian countries. But they said it was a hoax, and we've been fighting that battle ever since. And the bottom line is they were flat out wrong, because all the assumptions that they made at the time, the information was either first unknown and has since been found, or they made some glaring errors that in hindsight you look back and, why didn't you look at the damn stone? Why did you trust a copy? Turns out that Olaf made some mistakes in the copy that led to erroneous conclusions, which would beg the question, how can the guy who supposedly carved it make these mistakes? Well, the reason is he didn't understand what he was copying, and he made these mistakes because he didn't know what it was. So it's an immensely complicated story, but I believe we have unraveled all this stuff, and we've finally got it straight. And this thing is what I'm calling the Rosetta Stone of North America. It's And really, it doesn't just change the history of our country and our continent. It changes the history of the world. And I'm not kidding, man. It's incredible.
Do you think it's because they just don't want to reprint, a bunch of books and history books and
I don't
and
understand
change
why
curriculum?
not. I mean, don't
right.
they make money when they write new books?
Right. What's
the problem? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on here, and one of the big ones is ego. But let me come back to that story I was going to tell you.
Yeah, you were going to say you were going to give me one example.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Well, when I told you I got upset and pissed off, I said, get that thing back in my lab, and I'm going to take another look at it. And one of the things I did is I generated a photo library of the entire inscription. I took 650 photos of every single rune, every word separator, every man-made mark in that inscription using high and low angle reflected light, so I could see the three-dimensionality of it and really understand, the physical nature of this inscription. And as I did that, I started finding things that I didn't expect, that had never been seen before, that were clearly man-made. And if they're man-made, they mean something. The carver intended them to be there for a reason.
Give me one example.
This is all simple logic.
Well, what was one of the things that you found?
Well, what I found were mysterious punch marks that were added either on the lines or somewhere within the runes. And it turns out, and short strokes, little lines that were added that are barely noticeable. In fact, nobody noticed them before.
Right.
And so we looked at those, and of course I had two of the world's top linguists working with me at the time. But one of the things that I found were two dots above one of the hooked X runes in the first word on the split side of the stone where the last three lines are. And that word is H-A-R. It's called har. That word was the chief piece of evidence linguistically against the stone. For 100 years they said, that's a modern Swedish word, and that proves that it's a hoax. And that was the chief piece of evidence against it. Well, of course, at the time I did the photo study, I didn't know about any of this crap, And so I did my analysis, and I documented two dots above the hooked X in har, H-A. The hooked X is used for the A sound. And the linguist looked at me and they said, wait a minute, there's two dots above that? I said, yeah. And they said, are you sure? I go, well, yeah, look at them. Look at the picture. And they said, well, do you realize what this means? Of course I didn't. Well, what it meant was the word was not har. The word was hair. There are 10 men by the sea with our ships. And guess what? That's an old Swedish word. So suddenly the most powerful piece of linguistic evidence that proved it was a hoax was gone. And the top linguist in Sweden, a guy by the name of Professor Henrik Williams, in 2003 wrote a paper that's published in my book. And basically at the end, he said har is an important new discovery. And what he said was it means that it needs to be restudied. We need to take another look at the Kensington Rune Stone. The academics do. You know what happened to him?
He died.
I went and saw him again. Well, I'll tell you what happened to him. I went and saw him about 4 months later. I was sitting in his office at the Uppsala University in Uppsala, Sweden, about 2.5 hours north of Stockholm. And the president of the university called him into his office and said, Professor Williams, if you have time to study the Kensington Rune Stone, you have time for additional administrative duties. And he was punished for 3 years with just doing, crap work at the university as a way of saying, you're not going there.
What do the Scandinavians have to say today? Has their opinion changed?
Well, Henrik is I don't know what he thinks. I know deep down he knows it's real, but I don't feel that he feels like he can speak freely. Now, he would deny that, of course, but I feel that his hands are tied. And he's just, behaving until I don't know what. It's bizarre. But I have to say, after taking 5 trips to Sweden doing this research between 2003 and 2006, part of what's going on over there is the culture is so different. The academic culture and just the culture of Sweden in general is so different than the U.S. And let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. And this is an oversimplification, of course, but you'll get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, in Sweden, they think Americans in general over here, the people that we revere in our culture are athletes, politicians, and movie stars, and radio hosts, of course. And you know what? In a way, I can appreciate that.
I can too, sure.
You know? But over there, in general, the people that they admire in their culture are their scholars, especially the ones that are the experts in their Norse, Scandinavian, Viking history, including the linguists. I mean, these guys are treated like gods over there. And oh my goodness, do they have egos. So there really is a cultural difference in how people are perceived. But their academics are like they're walking gods, and the ones that are past, you know, in their past, I mean, they're giants. So, you know, this is part of what's going on here. And to say that the runestone's real after all these guys staked their reputations,
you know, so they are totally into moving forward and just staying with the status quo. They don't go left or right, is what you're saying.
They go right. They go right to making crap up, publishing papers. There was another book that was written by a guy that I met over there. I won't give his name, but he's a complete jack. And you can fill in the rest of it.
Right.
I mean, some of these guys are just nasty, dirty dudes, and he wrote it, and he came up with some code of Olaf Omen within it. It's nonsense. But this is published. This guy's supposed to be an academic. It's a joke. It's a joke.
It goes without saying, but I have to ask the question: how were you treated?
Well, for the most part, I have to say I was treated very well.
Okay.
Except when the discussion of the runestone happened. Now, I'll tell you one other story, and this one was amazing. I'm not an academic. I'm a working guy. I run a laboratory. I mean, I've done some pretty interesting things, and I don't want to sit there and tell you how great I am. All I can tell you is that the bar I have to meet whenever I do a job and I write a report, I reach a conclusion, I have to be able to be prepared to testify in a court of law under oath to my findings.
Sure.
And I'm telling you right now, if we put the Kensington Rune Stone on trial right now, the other side wouldn't even show up. I'm dead serious. Any attorney would take a look at their argument and they would say, are you kidding me? You're going to go to war with this? You're going to get slaughtered. And I've made this challenge on radio shows before. I'll make it again. If somebody wants to participate in a mock trial and defend the hoax theory, let's do it. Bring it on.
Well, it's over. Well, I was going to say it's over 100 years old. It's been unearthed for over 100 years.
Good one.
Yes.
That was good. I like that.
It's been unearthed for over 100 years, and so it's to think about what was, and this is how my brain works. To think about what was available as far as knowledge goes with Norse writing, the theories of Vikings being here before Columbus, all of that is modern thought. To manufacture something like this 100 years ago with, because there wasn't that kind of knowledge. Well, it was out there, but that's
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And no, I think I get your point. What you're basically trying to say is, how could this farmer have known any of this stuff to carve this inscription? The answer is he couldn't have. Nobody could have.
Right.
There wasn't a person on the planet that could have carved this inscription in 1898. Not even the top scholars in Sweden couldn't have, because this is what this document is. It's a secret coded Templar land claim document. It's full of code. It's full of allegory and symbolism. I mean, it is immensely complicated, and it was written by somebody with a medieval mind that understood all of this. And when we did this research, When I went over to Sweden, I followed the evidence. It took me right to the Cistercians. It took me right to the Templars. This isn't some Da Vinci Code, pipe dream that I made up. I'm telling you, this is where it went. And I have followed that evidence trail, and guess what? It's turned into a mushroom cloud of an atom bomb of evidence that absolutely supports it. But my question to you is, what do these scholars know about this secret coded communication of the Templars? The answer is zero. And until they realize what they're dealing with, they will never figure it out, ever.
Can you indulge me for a second? And this question just came in, and I don't know how much time this would take, but this just came in from Twitter, and this is,
sure.
It is, Jimmy, what is exactly written on the stone word for word?
I can tell you.
Okay, let's go.
I know it by heart. 8 Goths and 22 Norman on this acquisition business or taking up land far to the west of Vinland. We had camped near 2 shelters, 1 day's journey north from the stone. We were fishing one day. When we came home, found 10 men red with blood and death, then 3 Latin letters which say AVM. The last line on the face side says save from evils. On the split side, where the last 3 lines are, it says, there are 10 men by the sea with our ships, 14 days' journey from this island, year 1362.
Yeah, that sounds like a farmer hoax, that.
Well, 1362, by the way, for those who are keeping track, that's 130 years before Chris.
That's right. That's right. And,
in Minnesota, in the heartland. Now, what many people don't realize, I'm the first person in history to point this out, and it's not because I'm special. It's because the geology told me it was real, so there has to be an explanation for everything. Why'd they do this? Where'd they come from? What was the reason for their coming here? But the runestone was found right on the north-south continental divide. Is that important? Well, it just turns out that both the French and the Dutch back in the 14th century had a land claim practice where if they could prove they traveled to the headwaters of a river system and placed a land claim stone in the ground and oftentimes a tin plaque in a tree for redundancy, these guys weren't stupid. They could lay claim to the entire river system and all the land associated with it. So theoretically, at Kensington, this land claim could claim all the land from the Red River Hudson Bay watershed to the north and the Mississippi-Missouri watershed to the south, which is about half the continent.
Yeah, if I'm Scandinavian, yeah, it's fascinating. And this is one thing that I'm very comfortable with now. I think that most of us logical thinkers now across the United States, I think that the consensus is today that Columbus was not first. I think that's where we are at now. It's your work and a lot of other researchers, too, that have been pointing this out. Certainly Oak Island is another curious thing when we look at all of this. But and I would like your thoughts.
Lots of Meadows really changed the paradigm, and that happened quite a while ago. And I don't even know if there's any serious scholars that debate that. But, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, if they were, are they saying that that's the only group that came here and that was the only time? I mean, come on. I mean, that was around, the year 1000. And I guess what they want us to believe is that for 500 years, nobody else came here until Chris came?
No.
I mean, what were they, scared?
No.
I mean, if you stop and think about it, it's ridiculous. If they came here 1,000 years ago, of course they were coming here. The whole time they were coming, during that time to Chris and before. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what reasonable brain would reach that conclusion or expect us to believe that?
Before we get to the hooked X, have you ever considered, because I think about this all the time, don't you think like the Japanese and the Chinese were taking advantage of the other side of the country too as well 1,500 years ago?
Stay tuned for season 3 of America Unearthed. Good one.
Yeah,
good one.
well,
I didn't even set you up on that.
No,
you did
you
that
didn't.
by yourself.
It's just that it's ludicrous. It's just it doesn't make sense to think, and I don't understand. I just don't understand the feeling. I grew up here. You grew up here. And as an American student here in our great country of ours, I was talking about the other day when I was in 8th grade, taking a class in Indianapolis called Indiana History. Okay, and I am here to tell you that it all started in 1800. You know, I mean, it's just like before whatever. I'm pulling a date out of the air.
Yeah,
but,
I know,
but
yeah.
before the colonists, and then we had American Indians. But other than that, there's nothing to discuss here, and that's what was taught in school.
Well, you know something though, Jimmy, you're absolutely right. But here's what I think a big part of the problem is. And by the way, how can you discover a continent that's got 10 million people already living here? I mean, for crying out loud, what are we talking about? This is so stupid. It's such an oversimplification that they stick in your head when you're a child. But you know what? When they put stuff in your head as a kid, it stays there. And I don't know if it's brainwashing or programming or what, but it's unbelievable. But you know what? I think there's a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, when you go back in time, and you don't have to go back very far. I mean, even when we were, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid growing up in the 60s, a little boy, and then in the 70s when I was in junior high and high school, I mean, it was a different time. You know, people thought differently. The culture was different. The world was different. You start going back, 100, 200, 300 years. You know, the context of the world at that time was different. The thinking was different. The mentality was different. So you always have to keep that in mind when you're talking about a time period. And same is true when you're talking about the Rune Stone 1362 and Oliphant and all that. So just keeping that in the back of your mind. Part of the problem I think that we're still trying to get past is this whole notion of manifest destiny. And this is an oversimplification, I'm going to tell you, but you get the point. Basically, manifest destiny had two major components that we were taught. And the first was Native Americans are savages. They are not Christian, therefore subhuman, and therefore justifying genocide and taking their land, which is what happened. I mean, nobody uses that word, but isn't that what happened?
Right.
Of course it is.
It's exactly what happened.
So that's the first part, and that's part of our justification and our God-given right to take this land. But the other part was the myth of Columbus, is what I call it. There was nobody here before Chris. This is virgin land. No other countries had been here, so it's our right to take this land. And so that's what we were taught. Now, let me ask you this. As settlement took place and, taking the Indians down, screwing them at every turn and every deal we made, what happens if they find something that, like a rune stone, that indicates there was somebody here before we were here? Some other country, some other culture was here, or a site that clearly indicated the Celts were here, or the Jews were here, or the Phoenicians were here, or whatever. What does that do to manifest destiny? It's a problem.
It's null and void.
It's a problem. So what do? You get rid of it.
You get rid of it. You hide it. You suppress it. You debunk it.
Exactly. And I guarantee you that's what happened. And they're still trying to do it. And I'll come back to that if you want, and I can give you the best example in the world. But the point is, 150, 200 years ago when all this was going on, I get it. I understand the context of the world at that time and what our founding fathers were trying to do. I understand that. But it's 2014. What the hell? Come on. I mean, aren't we beyond that now?
Well, even back then, 150 years ago, 1850, 1840, 1830, when we're pushing west,
right,
and getting across the Mississippi, even then, Washington D.C. was like, okay, if you see anything, throw it in the river.
Of course.
If you see anything from the French, if you see anything from Norway, you see anything out there marking land, You chop that stuff up and you throw it, get rid of it, because we're pushing west. And I know that was the mentality. They were smarter than that.
And guess what? I know they found stuff. I know they did. And look, Pierre Lebrandre was sent over here by the French in the 1740s, and he was trying to clear out those old Templar land claims.
Yes, he was.
He found one.
Yes,
but he was in the area looking for the runestone. He didn't find it. I'm telling you, I guarantee. And then what he did is he put down the French land claims. He updated the land claims. We might talk about that in this upcoming season. But
you know what? That's exactly what was going on. It was serious mischief, and the United States at that time, this entire continent, technically undiscovered, unclaimed, full of riches, full of everything, full of food, full of minerals, full of forest and everything else. Everybody wanted a piece of it. And those guys, they probably did it 3 or 4 times. They were throwing the United States land claims in the river. I'm serious,
All right, what was going on. I mean, this intrigue and spies figuring out, who's going to get a leg up on the other guy. And I mean, there's a fascinating history right there that we're never going to know. I mean, it's just that's extra top secret. I mean, imagine if that information got out. But they've got their I don't know, what do you call them, debunkers out there that are going to do everything they can to spin it, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to go.
Other thing.
I don't know if we're going to go there tonight, but I would love it if we do. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your humble host, Jimmy Church. We're talking with Scott Wolter from America Unearthed. Hey, did you hear me say earlier? I tried to say America Unearthed first. America Unearthed Scott Wolter. You can't do it.
You can't say it fast. You got to slow down. You got to stop. You got to collect your tongue and then keep going.
Yeah. Scott Wolter's got to go first. It's got to go first. That's the only way I can get it out. Now, let's. One of the most for me when you started to get into the Rune Stone, but for me was the hooked X. And that is a very, very important piece to this puzzle. So please,
oh boy, is it!
So can you please? I've been wanting to talk to you about this for such a long time. So take us through the hooked X, and then I've got some questions.
Sure. Well, as I said, next thing I did was this photo study and found all these weird marks, and then I, started taking my trips over to Sweden, and it turns out that the linguistic anomalies and the runic anomalies were all found in one area. That was primarily on Gotland and the extreme eastern coast of mainland Sweden, where these particular abbeys were feeding the churches on Gotland with these monks. And so I go over there, and this is where we're finding the inscriptions that contain these anomalies. And, of course, people go, well, how come you found them and the scholars that are over there in Sweden didn't find them? Well, the answer is simple. They didn't begin studying these runic inscriptions on Gotland until the 1960s. And I got to tell you something. They're slow as hell. They're still studying them. And this stuff is only now and, in the last couple decades being published. But this is where the evidence was, and we were the first ones to look at these inscriptions in context with the runestone. That's where we found everything. Okay?
Are you suggesting then that in 1898 the hooked X was an unknown or virtual unknown?
Oh, it wasn't, and we didn't find it there either. It wasn't on Sweden. What we found were the Cistercians, because in the 14th century, the only people that would have had the ability, the knowledge to carve an inscription of this complexity and length would have been a member of the clergy, because the common people weren't educated. And so who are the clergy here on Gotland where we found all the anomalies? Well, the Cistercians. Well, who are they? Oh, the white monks. They were founded in around 1100 by Robert Molesme and their charismatic leader, St. Bernard de Clairvaux, who joined the order with 30 family members in 1113, the start of the greatest coup d'etat in history that the world doesn't even know about.
Right.
But he was the one who founded this military monastic order called the Knights Templar. I mean, follow the evidence, and that's where it led. And we found everything except this goofy X symbol, this hooked X, which was being used for the A sound. But logic told me, as when you do forensics, it's all logic, okay? I mean, and when you use the basic logic, it makes things so simple. And, you know, a bottom line is the geology told me it was real. We found everything else. It means the hooked X also has to exist somewhere, and we just have to find it. Well, it turns out that in 2004, a scholar looked at the rune stone when we brought it there to Sweden, and he recognized something. He recognized the hooked X. He saw this somewhere. He went back and he found it in the archives of northern Sweden, some Masonic papers that were donated by a guy named Edward Larson in 1950. And lo and behold, there were two alphabets, secret, and one of them was the ancient secret alphabet. And the hooked X was in there being used for the A sound. And of course, what did the scholars do? Instead of going, oh my goodness, this is a crack in the case, maybe this explains its medieval origin. Oh no. This explains, oh, we found these papers, they're 19th century, and an immigrant could have had these papers, they could have gone to Minnesota, and they could have used it to carve the rune stone. Well, sorry, you still can't carve the rune stone with those papers, but this is what they did. And I'm like, oh, you're just going to make this leap? It wasn't found in Minnesota, it was found here in Sweden. The point is, guys, there it is. First, you were wrong that this didn't exist. You said it never existed. Well, you were wrong about that. How about stepping up and admitting you were wrong, first of all, which they'll never do. And then everything they do is to make it go away. But the obvious connection for me was Freemasonry and the Cistercians and the Templars. Is there a connection? Well, duh. Of course there is. And it said right in the papers, the ancient secret alphabet. So they were using it as a coded letter within Freemasonry and within the Knights Templar. And I eventually found the X being used for A in a Cistercian monastery's secret alphabet in Germany. So we've since found many more examples of the hooked X. But,
you know, even if you did the leap of faith here and said, okay, possibly, I mean, somehow a Minnesota farmer got his hands on some, I want to say parchment, you know, some piece of paper that had the hooked X on it. So he's going to sit in his cabin in Minnesota with his family with a rock in front of him and carve this type of message out with the hook. What I say it all the time. What are the odds?
Do you think his family wouldn't know? I mean, his oldest son was 12. The scholars, you know what? We were the ones that discovered that there were two sons there that day. Nobody realized that the other son was there until we published it in our book in 2005. It's insane. He was 12 years old. The reason nobody ever knew about him is because when the investigation started in earnest in 1909 and 1910, and they actually went up to the farm and talked to the guy. Oh, that's a great. But this was 12 years after he found the stone. His son had grown up, moved away, and moved to Canada. So nobody ever interviewed him. They interviewed the second oldest son, Edward, who was there that day working with his father, and nobody ever talked to the other son. But the reason I bring this up is because we dug so deep into this thing, we found answers to all the questions, and it dug down every myth and every rumor. And I'll tell you right now, anything and everything that's published prior to our book about the runestone is flat out factually incorrect. It's wrong. Everything you've ever heard. He was a stonemason, you know, it was used as a doorstep. And I mean, you know, it's all nonsense. It's all crap. It's just amazing. But I don't know, I got myself off track. Where the heck were we? Are we still on the hooked X?
Yeah, we were on the hooked X.
Oh, the farmer carving the hooked X. Yeah, okay. What about the dotted R? What about the dotted thorn? I mean, there's so many details in this inscription. I mean, the dotted R wasn't known until 1935. How did it get on the runestone in 1898? You're telling me Olaf knew? There wasn't a scholar in the world that knew anything about it. Really? come on. I mean, don't even insult us with a stupid argument like that. It's just.
Were you
stop
able
already.
to get the dotted R and the hooked X all the way back to the 1300s?
Absolutely. And the hooked X predates that. I'll tell you this right now, Jimmy. I'm sitting on something right now that I have not shared with the world. It's going to be an atom bomb blowing up the whole thing. I am not overstating this. In fact, I could not overstate the importance of a piece of evidence that relates to the hooked X that I'm sitting on right now that I just can't tell you about yet. But I'm telling you, someday down the road, you and I will have another conversation. You're going to look back and say, Scott, remember you made that big deal and you blew all this sunshine? You weren't kidding. You're going to say that, Jimmy. I'm telling you right now.
Okay. I can understand not being able to reveal. I don't know if it's in the next season or you haven't completed the research.
Well, that is a big part of it, and I really don't want to go into it yet. Although
is it physical?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Does it involve a rock? Well, I'm talking to Scott Wolter.
Yeah, it does. Yep, it absolutely does.
Was the rock found here in the United States?
No.
Okay, that's important. Okay.
It's not.
Oh, you're just so wrong. You're a big bowl of wrong. You can't do that.
Hey, we got to have some fun here, right?
Okay.
You want to? I tell you what. You know what? Let's have some fun.
Okay.
I will give you 5 questions. I'm not going to give you 20. I'll give you 5.
Okay.
And I will say yes or no to those questions. But I'm telling you, when you finally understand what this is, you're going to go, holy crap.
Okay. Was it found in Northern Europe?
No.
Ooh. Oh. Okay. Was it?
Let me just say
no.
one thing on
Okay.
that. You have to understand the Cistercians and the Knights Templar were a multi-international corporation.
Hold on.
Everybody assumes that the Kensington Rune Stone, which is carved in the old Swedish language, means it was all Norse.
That's okay. So
no, it means the carver was educated in Sweden. That's all it means.
Okay. So okay. I'm going to say
keep that in mind.
I'm going to stay geographical. Mediterranean?
Yes.
Does it involve a tomb?
Ooh. Good one. Yes.
Okay. So that's 3. Okay. Was this brought to you?
Yes.
Okay. In other words, you didn't make the discovery. Somebody else made the discovery, and it was brought to you.
Absolutely. Well,
okay.
Yes, it was brought to me as one thing, and then I helped them understand what it was. And they went, holy shit, you're right.
Oh, family show. Beep.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. Okay, last question. Are you in possession of it?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. But
I'm in possession of the information, not of the object.
Okay, then you got to. Okay, one more
That's
question.
Five.
One more.
Five.
One more. Have you fondled it?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's why we need to do the research. We
Okay.
have research to do. But I can tell you this: what's there is there. It's the details about what's there is what I want to understand more. But it's not going to be taken away from me, and it's amazing.
Just keep it away from the Smithsonian, and we're all good.
They have no shot at it. They're never going to get their grubby hands on
it. Oh man. Okay, let's take a left turn.
I'm sorry, I was killing you. I know, but hey, you
stuff.
did good. That was a really good. I never thought you'd get that far, but that was really good.
That's we need. The thing is, and I know you can appreciate this. And I mention this every day on the show, but all of the guests need to be aware of our family here and our mindset, which is the powers that be, any agency or any or any of the orthodoxy academia out there, they can't control you, Scott. They can't control me, and our audience appreciates that. They're not here because they're going to get something that is BS. And it's those fringes. And I said to you today, I say it every day on the show. Fringe is an important word. It used to be a bad word, but fringe is what moves us forward. And if we didn't have that, if we didn't have those people that question, not only question authority, but question academia and question what you've been taught, then we don't move forward. And that is the truth. And that's exactly what we do on this show. So for me to ask those 5 questions and to go right there, that's what we do every day on this show. And I'm excited. You've got me fired up. You should see.
That was good. I'm impressed. And I think you know more than you're letting on. And I appreciate that because, you're right about these people out there that want to try to manipulate and control thought and research and truth and all this stuff. And, there's a part of me that just doesn't even want to think about that stuff because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. I don't consider myself special at all. I mean, the only thing that's special is I've got a TV show, and that's wonderful. I mean, it's fantastic, but I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do, what I think is the right thing to do. And when I run up against this, the way you couched it, BS, I don't go for that. And I just don't go for it. And so I'm not going to put up with it. And because of all that, to be able to be in this position, to have a voice that a lot of people can hear, I am so thrilled and honored to do that. But I take it very seriously. I mean, we're having a good time here. We're talking about some fun stuff, but at its core, this is some heavy stuff. It's very important stuff. And, I always have that in the back of my mind. And I'm not kidding around. When I get down to brass tacks, I have to be sure that I've done my work as good as I can, as well as I can. And, if I feel like I can say this is this, or this is fake, or whatever. I mean, and sometimes the answer is, I don't know. I don't like saying that. It's like many academics have this aversion. They feel like they just have to have an opinion, like they have to have the final word. But sometimes the final word is, you know what? I just don't have enough information. I don't know. That's okay. And I just wish more of them would do it. And having said that, Jimmy, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up. I think it's important that we always say some academics, because I've met some really cool people out there that are academics, that are scholars, that are doing it the right way, that stand up and go against their colleagues. I'll tell you one right now, Dennis Stanford at the Smithsonian Institute, he's amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that guy's blazing his own trail. He's taking all kinds of criticism, and he's just wiping the slime off his coat and saying, is that the best you got? I love that guy.
Yep.
It's not all of them. There are some really good ones out there, but there's some real ding-dongs too,
Well, Robert Schoch is another guy like that.
I love Robert Schoch.
Love Robert Schoch. And when he was on the show, I had to ask him just straight out, did you wait till you were tenured before you got all rowdy? And he goes, and his answer, I had to. Yes. I had thoughts, I had theories, I had ideas, but I also have a career and I have a family I have to feed. Yes. Yeah. And I can appreciate that. But man, after that, gloves were off.
Yeah. Well, and I met him at a conference last year, and he was a great dude. I mean, I'm a geologist, he's a geologist, so we hit it off right away. We could talk the same language, but he talked in his presentation about appearing at a conference over in Egypt, and he was absolutely ambushed by these scholars, and they just ripped him to shreds. And, that kind of a thing, it was a total setup. But that kind of a thing, when it happens to you, you either crawl in a hole and pull the rock over and you just don't come out, or you say, you know what, you put on the gloves and say, let's try that one again, okay? And that's how I am. I'm just an old ball player, so if somebody punches me in the mouth, I'm going to punch them harder. And sometimes that gets me into trouble, but I think it's that mentality that some of these people have that allows them to persevere and make progress. And he's definitely one of them, and I respect him for that. I think he's a great guy, and and good for him.
Yeah, it's so easy to be on the other side of the fence when we're dealing with subjects like this. It's totally easy. It's easy. The answer is always no. You know, they don't have to put up evidence. They want the preponderance of the evidence to be on our side.
Yeah, but they're not going to they're not going to accept it anyway.
Right. They just say no. I mean, that's it. No. What do you mean no?
well, and it is mind-boggling. Some of these guys, it's like they say, "Well, I am the God, so what I say goes." And you know, Henrik Williams is the guy that's really, from a linguistic standpoint, he's the one that is, his opinion matters. But what I find interesting is, for some reason, not just Henrik, but the other guys over there that are in, you know, the linguistics or the runology, they seem to think that the authenticity question of the runestone is solely based on the linguistics. And I'm like, excuse me? There's this thing called geology. Does that not play a role here? I mean, it's like they think that they're the ultimate authority and only their discipline matters. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. It's not just one thing has to fit. It all has to fit, okay? And by the way, there's so much subjectivity to the work that they do, whereas ours is more quantitative. They just don't understand the difference. They don't even seem to care. It's amazing.
Well, exactly, because when it comes to all things fringe, or, you know, you can even throw in the word paranormal there, in that we have photographs of UFOs, and we have videos of UFOs, and we have evidence of ghosts, and we have evidence of paranormal activity, and we have evidence of the you know, the Vikings being here. We have evidence of we are constantly presenting our side. They never present the scientific side to counter that. It's only spoken word, and that's what really bothers me. There is no put up or shut up.
It's the old absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence argument. You can't prove a negative. It's impossible. You can't. And so they played this, like you say, the word game. And, you know, they don't have to put up any evidence because they're the experts. And this rune never existed. How about one time, how about a guy like Henrik step up and say, you know what, you said these 7 runes never existed. How about just saying, I was wrong, okay? Because you were wrong. For 100 years, you and your predecessors were flat out wrong. That assumption you made was baseless. So if you're wrong about that, what else are you wrong about? Why should we trust you now when you screwed it up before?
And that goes back to your statement earlier. If we were in court, you know, if you're wrong on one thing, if you're in court and you messed up once, the jury makes up their mind.
You think an attorney's not going to jump in your grill and get all over you? You're done.
This is Fade to Black in the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We are only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We're talking with America Unearthed Scott Wolter. Hey, let's okay. I want to talk about a couple of other things. I went through today. I have on DVR over the last 2 seasons. I have all of America Unearthed, and I've gone back and watched many episodes a couple of different times. And so this is, why do I know? Don't take this the wrong way. Take this the right way. Why do I know the ending of each episode? If you know,
why do you know the ending?
Yeah.
I don't know, because you watch it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what I mean is, it seems like, the Kensington.
Oh, you mean you know what the ending's going to be?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Well, what do you mean? You don't know the ending every time. Come on. You can say that. Oh, I get it. I can't prove a negative, right? Okay,
right. You know, I mean, because it's a difficult thing that you're doing, you know, and the theory is there, we've all heard the stories of, and I do want to talk about, we'll go through a couple of episodes, but go through the Grand Canyon treasure or the Ark and Knights Templar. It's all right there, but are we ever going to see closure on some of these is where I'm going.
Well, I think what you're saying is probably what I say when I get, these scripts or these show ideas like the Grand Canyon. I'm going to look for the Ark. Well, are we going to find the Ark? No, we're not going to find the Ark.
Right.
I mean, if we do, it's going to be worldwide news, and I'm going to retire and live in luxury the rest of my life. I mean, let's face it; these are some pretty tall tasks that we're asked to perform. But and sometimes I'll roll my eyes and say, oh, geez, and then I start to look at the places that they want us to go or that I suggest that we go. And as we go through the process, first of all, I mean, we're trying to teach people about these artifacts, and we usually touch on aspects of the story that they probably hadn't heard. And I certainly learn a lot. And we go to places, we meet people that have interesting artifacts that the world's never seen. In the case of, that carved chair that we looked at,
right.
Basin.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard of this thing. Now, I don't know if it's connected or not, but it had a fascinating history that went back 300 years that was documented. And, eventually we get to the Grand Canyon, and we get stymied by the government once again, which, God, I can't tell you how many people emailed me or, contacted, said, why didn't you use a drone? Well, they wouldn't let us. That's why. But we have some other ideas on what we might want to do there. But, some of these episodes we go after, it's a tough challenge. But, we always, when you go through the process, I mean, you've heard that old saying, half of success is just showing up, right? Well, I can't tell you how many times when I've gone out, either on the show or in real life, on my own research, and I've gone to a place and I had an agenda in mind. I want to go see this and do this, and if I do that, it'll be great. And then I go, and it turns out I find something that's 10 times better than I ever dreamed. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never know until you get out there what's going to happen. And I think you'll see that a lot this season. We had some really, I made some assumptions, there's nothing up there, and it's like I get up there, holy crap, look at this.
Right.
So that happens a lot.
Where do the show ideas come from? Is it out of your hands, or is some of it in your hands?
No, I would say about a third of the episodes we do are what I call my stuff that I've already written about or I've researched, or I'll bring the idea to them, my wife Janet and I. I'd say a third that, the committee films comes up with, the writers there research and find the topic. Some of it comes directly from the network. They have their own pet ideas. And then I'd say probably a third come from tips that people call in, because we ask people to contact us if they have a tip, and we invite them on the show in many cases. We'll have tipsters come on, and I'll say, okay, what's the story, man? What do you got? And they'll go through it, and then we just take it from there. So it's a variety. It's a variety.
Take me through a couple of these examples. I know which ones are yours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll tell you one. I will tell you one of the episodes that, quite frankly, when I first got it, I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't want to do this. And then I did it, and I was completely amazed. It was fantastic. And it came from a tipster, the Rock Wall in Texas. And I didn't know it. I'd never heard of it before. Didn't know. It's a big deal down there, I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. And somebody wanted to say, is this thing man-made or is it natural? What's the story? And I read the thing, and I'm like, what? This is stupid, And then we went down there, and then as the whole thing started to unfold, I met the tipster, and he told me his story, and I'd really like you to get to the bottom of this, and got a hold of a contractor. We dug a giant hole in the ground. We exposed this thing, and we went after it. We did some scientific testing. We looked at the history behind it, people that had various aspects of the story. I thought it was a really fun episode. And afterwards, before I reached my final conclusion, and when I watched the episode myself, I just tried to put myself in the viewer's place. I was 100% sure watching that show that I was going to say it's man-made, and it wasn't. It was natural. And I got so many letters from people, and they said, Scott, are you sure? Are you sure that thing's not man-made? It's got to be man-made. And there were people that were mad at me. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you wanted me to tell you what I really think. I mean, it's 100% natural. But
it looked real. It looked man-made to me.
It was one of those instances where nature just threw a curveball at us, and it's such a unique geologic situation. It was really cool, and I have to say, what started off as something I wasn't wild about doing ended up being one of my favorite episodes.
Have you, this just popped up on Twitter, I didn't even think about going here tonight. Have you checked out the Malibu deep underwater base discovery that we did earlier this year?
No.
See, we just caught Scott by surprise, and I'm watching Twitter is lighting up here. Okay, we can discuss this after the show. If I don't know if you're in front of a computer and you just want to go to our website and scroll down, and you can look at what we found off the coast of California, off the coast of Malibu. It's pretty insane.
Wait a minute, is this this underwater repository or yeah, I think I have seen this. Yes.
Yeah, the alien base is what we called it.
Yes, I have seen that. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
That was us.
Well, it looks like a very interesting underwater geographic feature down there, and I think it's definitely worth following up. If what I saw in the images is really there, man, that's either a rock wall phenomena, a rock wall-like phenomena where nature is doing something really special, or it's something else.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's I'm looking. I have so many people texting me and writing me from all directions that you need to look into this too.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have. When I first contacted you a few months ago, I didn't even think about that, and you're too close to the fire, kind of thing. And
it's like what happens is something so well, and it's sort of in your brain all the time, and you don't think about telling somebody because you just assume they know what you know. It's a silly thing to do, but we all do it, and I understand. Hey, before we get done here tonight,
yes,
you've got to ask me about that little guide stone thing.
Well, I was going to go there in a few minutes.
Okay.
Are you talking about Bath Creek?
I didn't want you to forget. Because
are you talking about
I went
Bath
back
Creek?
And looked at my pictures.
Okay.
From when I was there when we filmed that episode, so I'm ready for you.
Well, yeah, let's go. Let's go right now.
All right. Okay, so I don't know. Why don't you start?
Well, I also wanted to talk about Bath Creek too.
Oh, well, let's do Back Creek. We can come back to the Guidestone. Back Creek is one of my, you know what I'm calling the big three now, is the Rune Stone, the Tucson lead artifacts, and the Back Creek Stone. I mean, 2,000 years worth of three artifacts that are absolutely 100% genuine, and they just drop a bomb on this whole history.
Well, what about that little, I don't even know what to call it, but the little box that had the 10 Commandments written on it. What about that?
Oh, you mean the Decalogue stone?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's another one. That's great too. I mean, the only thing that I have to say is that from a geological standpoint, there isn't a hell of a lot that I can say because it was found in a mound. It wasn't. It was inside of a box, so it was protected. So there's really no weathering to look at, but. It sounds to me, based on what I've read, the veracity of the discovery is good, and if the provenance of the artifact is good, then how can it not be real?
Right.
I mean, how can it not be? I mean, this is the same kind of argument that we have with the Back Creek Stone, and I got into a huge tiff. If you go onto my blog site where I talk about the Back Creek Stone, you'll see that I responded to the Smithsonian when they finally turned the artifacts over to the Cherokee, Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian Reservation. The day that thing arrived at the reservation, the day it arrived, the Smithsonian Institute for the first time released an official statement about the authenticity, and they said it was a hoax. And they blamed their guy, their digger, the guy that they hired, John Emmert. They said he did it. And I got in their grill. I wrote there and I said, oh, really? You're going to question your own guy? Well, let me tell you something. If you're going to question the honesty and integrity of John Emmert's work on this dig, then you have to question everything else he found on all the other 200 digs that he did. And oh, by the way, if you're such idiots that you're hiring morons who are planting artifacts, what about the rest of the guys that did all the digs that serve as the basis for the Bureau of Ethnology's report starting back in the 1860s? Do you really want to go there, pal?
Right.
So he reissued a different statement, and he took Emmert out. I'm telling you, they're pulling the biggest fraudulent scam in the history of history with the Smithsonian, with the Bat Creek Stone. And what's ironic about it is when they first found it, they thought it was Paleo-Cherokee.
That's right.
So it wasn't a threat to the paradigm that they had already established, is that all these artifacts that came out of these mounds were the result of the indigenous people. And by and large, most of them were, but not all of them. And certainly not the Bat Creek. But they made a mistake. They thought that it was Paleo-Cherokee. It fit with the paradigm. No harm, no foul. Everything's cool. They published it, and on they went. It wasn't until 1970 when Cyrus Gordon flipped it around and put its orientation properly, and he said, this isn't Paleo-Cherokee, it's Paleo-Hebrew.
First century Hebrew.
Early Paleo-Hebrew. And then, of course, guess what happened? Oh, no, it's a fake. This reaction from the Smithsonian is very interesting because don't we, as the American public, just assume that they're doing things the right way, they have integrity, they're going to investigate everything, scientifically and all this BS? No, their reaction wasn't, gee, we should maybe take another look at this. Their reaction was, it's a fake, and our guy did it. And then they hire a couple, they go out and they get their academic hit guys, Manford and Quast, to write a bunch of paper to muddy the waters, to try to, attack everything like a bulldog. I mean, this is a scam. This is a crime that's been committed against our history. And I'm going to hold them accountable. This is the kind of thing that gets me so pissed. And the evidence is so clear. And now I have proposed, let's retest them. Give the artifacts back to the Cherokee, because, by the way, they came from their mound.
Well,
These are
but
sacred funerary objects. Give it back.
This is, but I don't want this to blow by everybody. They need to understand exactly what you just said. When the discovery was first made, they looked at the stone upside down.
Exactly.
And at that time, it was authentic. It was authentic. There was no question about the stone's authenticity.
Because it wasn't a threat.
Right,
because it was no problem.
And so 100 years later, they flip it upside down, and they look at it and they go, holy crap, this is first century Hebrew. And it says some...
We better make this one go away. Remember we talked about at the start of the show?
Yes.
If they find something that doesn't fit the paradigm, it's got to go. Well, they're still doing it. They're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't do it. It's the same thing with the Kensington Rune Stone. If they had found that thing, if it was other than a farmer with this public display where all these people, they couldn't come and take it. They couldn't, they tried to make it go away, and they're still trying to make it go away, but they couldn't do it with many of these artifacts. The Bat Creek Stone is so important because it exposes the Smithsonian for the frauds that they are.
Yeah, and let's look at this in a logical sense, just like we look at the Kensington Rune Stone. I'll bring up the same point. It was unearthed 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Now, do you want to tell me who knew how to carve first century Hebrew in an authentic fashion 100 years ago and not make any mistakes in it and make it correct?
Yeah. And on top of that, to bury it inside of a birch bark bundle under the skull of this person, the only person of the 9 with their head buried to the south. This was a shaman, probably a visiting shaman from the Mediterranean region. By the way, the natives have told me they did this. They've been doing this stuff for thousands of years. They've traveled across the continents. They were like visiting professors or visiting students that travel abroad to other universities in other countries. This isn't a new concept. This has been going on for a long time. I just this past week, I was with the Medeiwen. I was with the Medeiwen shaman and a prophecy keeper in the Ojibwa tribe up in Canada.
I heard you were playing football. I mean, what is it? Was
I
it
played
football
last night, man, and I'm sore as hell right now.
So what happened?
I played touch football with my son, and we lost. God damn it.
So what happened up in Canada?
Well, I participated in a sweat, and it was amazing. And I asked them a lot of questions, and they answered my questions. And we talked about this very thing. And I said, have people from other cultures visited your people prior to contact? And he just laughed and said, of course. And we've been over there. It's been going on forever. And, it's been a delicate process, and I want to be very careful and sensitive when I talk about the Native people that have opened up to me because, let's face it, they're not too happy with white people. And I'm a white guy. And I've had to work hard to gain their trust, and it hasn't worked with all of them. And I felt some of that resentment came out. It wasn't towards me personally, but what happened to them was horrible. And so they're an untapped resource of knowledge. And there's a lot of people who roll their eyes and they scoff and they say, "Yeah, sure. That's that oral tradition thing. It's the telephone game." Well, let me tell you something. It ain't the telephone game.
Right.
I mean, it's. I use the analogy when this information is passed on to you, like it was passed on to these people. They are selected at a very young age. One of them was selected at 7 years old, and she was trained and educated because she had a certain aptitude as a young child that the people in the tribe said she's special.
Right.
And it's an honor and it's a privilege to receive this information. So when you are given this information within certain rituals, okay, it's a multi-sensory experience, it's a privilege, it's an honor, you are paying attention. And then the symbols, the signs, and the information is tattooed to your body. You don't forget this stuff. And so the next person that tells me that it's the telephone game,
right,
I don't know what I'm going to do.
With the platform that you have, and I see the phone calls coming in, and I'm sure Scott will take some phone calls. But
sure, be happy to.
But we'll do that in a few minutes. I'll open up the phone lines. So be patient, everybody. With your platform of America Unearthed, are you giving us 100%, or are you pulling back? Is there a threat from the Smithsonian to keep your to keep?
What are they going to do to me?
What? But do you understand? I know you understand the question. I mean,
no. But having said that, look. I only take shots when people deserve it. And the Smithsonian as an institution, it's like, Adrian Peterson. I'm a Vikings football fan, right? I mean, is the whole team like Adrian Peterson beating their kid? I mean, I feel so let down by what he did, but I can't paint all the guys on the team that way. I can't say that everybody in the institution is on board with what these people do. It's a few selected individuals. But so my point is I try to be respectful when people deserve the respect. But when they don't, they're going to hear about it. So we have to be careful not to paint these institutions, academics, whatever term you want to use, with a broad brush and put them all in the same pot, because it's certain individuals. Now, the percentage of these academics that are behaving badly, if you will, or not doing what I consider to be their job is a higher percentage than it should be, way higher. But it's not all of them.
Well,
we have to be careful. We got to couch it in the right way.
Well, when you call out the Smithsonian, like with the Back Creek Stone, that's a very good example of Smithsonian gone wrong. Do they come back and respond and defend themselves, or do they say stay silent?
If you have a moment, go read the blog. You can see the exchange. I mean, it's just this arrogant, standing on their own petard and just making a statement like they are the ultimate authority. And, it's like whatever we say, that's it. Well, in some ways, they do, their word does carry a lot of weight. But I'll tell you what, the foundation is more than cracked. And this is the one here is a dagger to the heart. I mean, you guys blew it. And you got to make it right. Otherwise, your credibility is gone. I mean, if we can't trust you here, what about the rest of the stuff? What else are you hiding?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the end of the Raiders of the Lost Ark where they put it in that sea of crates.
Right.
Got our top people on it, top people. I mean, how much of that is true?
All of it.
Well,
all of it.
I think there is a sea of crates that are
there is
with a bunch of stuff packed in it.
I can't imagine the unmarked warehouses hidden around this country that is absolutely packed full of all kinds of crazy things that they've been doing it forever. And
I can tell you this. I can't tell you what it is. I know some of the stuff that's in those boxes.
Oh, come on. You can't do this twice in one show.
Everything they got. I know some of the things that they got.
You can't do this twice in one show.
Sorry, man. And you don't get any questions. You're all done. You're too good. You're too good. I can't trust you now. You're going to figure it out.
Oh, this is great. This is Fade to Black, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Scott Wolter of America Unearthed. See, I said it correctly. Now, one of the things that has come up about 100 times in Twitter, what they didn't realize is obviously we were going to go there, which is America's Stonehenge. And that is certainly it has to be one of the most watched and rewatched and most popular episodes. So I do want to spend some time on that. Oh, we got to go back to the Guidestone. Oh, okay. Guidestone at the top of the hour. Let's do America's Stonehenge first. And this is my comment. And please take this the right way. I was hoping they were going to be bigger rocks. I was hoping it was going to be taller. Is America's Stonehenge a misnomer here? And
well, no, no. America's Stonehenge is incredible. I mean, it's hard to get a full sense of what's there until you actually go there. But it is nuts, and it's amazing. I mean, we really didn't. I don't think it's like when you watch something on TV. It's a lot different than actually being there and really getting the full scope of what is there. Got to remember too, back in the early 1800s, I believe it was, there was, I can't think of his name now, but there was a guy that homesteaded the property, and he sold a bunch of the stones and had them hauled out from that site for building a bridge.
Right.
So who knows what's lost, but what they still have there is incredible. And the alignments are spot on for the distant past, about 3,500 years ago, was where they actually line up perfectly with the sun, the moon, the stars, and all these other astronomical alignments. So, I mean, it's beyond impressive. And when you start to look at the details of some of these chambers and structures that are there, it's amazing.
It seemed a little was it claustrophobic?
No. I don't get claustrophobic. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. If you saw the Rock Lake episode and the Fuga Sub,
yes,
it doesn't get any tighter than that.
No.
But it was that stuff doesn't bother me.
Yeah, that was the one where you ran out of batteries, right? Was that?
There's something else that happened on that thing. I almost drowned in that thing in the morning.
I would never get in one of those. No,
I think you'd have to bribe me with a lot of beer to get another one of those things, man.
Oh man! And now back to was the Stonehenge episode the one with the son of the father and son that he made the computer alignment all the way to Stonehenge.
Yep.
That freaked me out.
Crazy.
Yeah, that freaked me out. I actually went and rechecked that myself, and when I was like, wow, whoa.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? I mean, on one hand, you look at that alignment and you go, no way. This is stupid. This can't be. But on the other hand, you were talking about the rising sun on the solstice, okay? So it does the same thing every time, every year. And this line, it's like if you've ever watched the animated graphic of the Earth turning from space and you see the lights turning on as it goes into dark. And I mean, imagine the sun on the horizon as it's coming around. It's going to follow that same track on that day of the year every time. So, and they're marking that with these stones. So it has to line up. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you look at it from that standpoint, it's not really that amazing, to be quite honest. It's doing what it really is supposed to be doing.
Remind me, were you able to date the Stonehenge there?
Yeah, and what happened is you have this wander. The poles are wandering, and the stars are wandering a little bit too. And I think there's been some astronomy done. There's been some C14 dates that have been collected at the site, and I think they're looking at somewhere around 3,500 years old.
Yeah. It was Christopher Columbus, man. Come on.
I just call him Chris. And that's a whole nother story. You know about the hooked X and his sigla, right?
Yes.
He was a Templar too. Come on.
Yes. Well,
all those navigators back then, they were all part of secret societies. I mean, good God, give me a break.
Hey. Well, you've seen the sails on the ships. That's
yeah. Oh, you mean that Templar cross?
Yeah,
there?
the Templar cross.
Really?
Yeah. Coincidence?
Come on, it's a coincidence.
I love you, Scott. Hey, okay, check this out. Now, one of the episodes that for me was a real eye opener. And I'm sure that you got a lot of blowback from was the Mayans and the blue powder and
the white the Palygorskite clay.
Yes. Yeah. Now, when I watched that, and I do want you to go through that episode for the audience because it was absolutely fascinating, but. As that was being put together, the way that you put the show together, I should say, was done in such a fashion that it absolutely made perfect, crystal clear, polished, see-through window sense. Mm-hmm. And it was something that it's difficult to question and to put up a fight against, because we're talking about hardcore evidence, evidence bags with evidence in it.
Yeah.
And so, which was, and I'm going to let you go through it, but Scott, in this episode, showed that the Mayans from Central America traveled to, was it Georgia or Alabama?
Well, it would have been, I mean, there were no state boundaries back then, no political borders, but to what is now southern Georgia, and they traded for this sacred type of clay that they have very little of down there in the Yucatan area. And it's not just this sacred clay that they mixed with the indigo dye to make this Maya blue pigment that they put on pottery and their
themselves
painted on their temples.
Right.
I mean, some of it's still there. It's if you want something bad enough, you're going to. I mean, this is kind of a crude analogy, but I mean, if you're a crackhead and you'll do anything for it.
Right.
I mean, this was in some ways their drug, and it was sacred to them. It was vital to their existence. So they're going to do what they got to do to get it, and and I mean, I have to say that that oh my God, they went from the Yucatan to Florida and up the rivers to this place that's now southern Georgia. Oh my, big deal. These are trading centers. These people traded for thousands of years on this continent. Are you kidding me? It's like I just don't understand what the big deal is. That's just not part of my psyche. To me, this is what people do. And you could go straight across there to Cuba, up to the Keys. If you go that route, you could sail around the coastline. Maybe you're going to stop off at Poverty Point there at the mouth of the Mississippi in the Gulf. I mean, these people were trading all the time. Oh, by the way, I think they made boats.
Yeah, well,
I think they could probably do that.
It's not that far of
such a big deal.
It's not that far of a walk either, Scott.
Oh yeah, they got legs too, don't they? Yeah. Forgot about that.
It's not that far of a walk from Belize. From Belize to Georgia. Okay, it may take you a little bit, but you're not crossing the Atlantic.
On the other hand, too, maybe they brought the Palygorskite because they probably had traded before to somewhere closer to the coast. Maybe the transaction took place somewhere else. Maybe they met halfway. Hey, there's an idea. Maybe there were designated places where trade from many cultures, many tribes came from. I think that's probably the case. Or is this so crazy that it doesn't make sense?
Yeah, it's such a stretch. It's such a stretch.
Really?
Yeah, I'm so with you.
I'm a geologist. I'm a little out of my element here, but I just don't get it. I honestly don't. And you talk to the indigenous people there, Richard Thornton, who was our guest, and that my very first scene that I ever shot was with him. And he's a Creek Indian, and he says he told me there's all kinds of sites in the mountains up there. He said that's not the only one. Of course, they wouldn't let me get access to it. Which, why not? Why wouldn't they let me go there? That was true, by the way. That wasn't made up. The government would not let us go in there.
Oh, that was when, and you tried to fly over it? Yeah.
I did fly over it.
Yeah.
With the LiDAR.
Yes, I remember
We mapped the whole thing.
Right.
And it worked beautiful. And we saw all the temples, all the stuff's there. I mean, they're in ruins now, but and overgrown, but, when you see through the canopy there with the LiDAR, you can still see these structures are there. Why don't they want to go check them out? I don't get it. What's the problem? What is the big... I don't get that. What's the problem?
Exactly. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Scott Wolter of America Unearthed. I've got a bunch of questions that have been sent in. This one is from Renee. She says, please ask Scott to tell us about the Mustang Mountain, Arizona Rune Stone.
I love that stone. Well, I don't know what she wants me to talk about in the episode. We actually that was something that was sent to me before I even did the show, and I flew out there and I checked it out, and it was amazing. And that ended up being one of the things that was one of my episodes. And here were this runic inscription. But you know what? I think there was somebody buried there, but clearly there was evidence of intrusion there. That somebody had been up there and dug and removed whatever artifacts and perhaps the remains that might have been there.
Was that the one you had to get the clearance from the state, and it was at the cave entrance, and you were digging up?
Yep.
That episode? That was also...
Yeah, we didn't dig. We did the GPR.
Yeah, GPR,
of the
right.
Cave.
Right.
And then, I haven't seen the episode in so long, I forget, but... If you and I talk about this in my latest book, which is Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers, that there was definitely a lot of material that was moved because you can see where the old ground line was on the walls of the cave.
Right.
There was material actually cemented onto the wall where the old horizon was, and so somebody moved a lot of material. And and there's a berm on the outside, which is probably where they put it all. But they dug in there, and there was probably somebody there, and they took it and whatever artifact. Maybe it was the state, maybe it was the government, for all we know.
Wasn't that the episode? Again, it's been a while since I've seen it too. Wasn't that the episode where you trace the name back to England and that guy?
Yeah, back to. Oh God, what was the name of the town?
Yeah, and
Hertfordshire.
Right, and he disappeared.
Found the guy, and he disappeared right about the time that those ruins were used. I mean, that's incredible.
And it was a rare family name too. It was, what was the last name? Hurick, and
yep, Rough Hurick.
and so that was it. I mean, you would think that again, this is just thinking logically, and I like the way you said that earlier. You just think logically. What are the odds of that family name being found on a rune stone in Indiana, in Arizona?
Arizona.
That is a rare name. If you're going to pick a name, not pick Smith.
How about Johnson?
Yeah, Johnson, but
Nelson.
Herrick.
No, and the thing is, the one thing we didn't talk about in that episode, which I think this was a little bit of artistic license. They show the two guys kind of walking in the reenactment. This guy was probably a Templar Knight, and this was a Templar party. Because you got to remember something. This is the part that people don't get. The Templars were all over this country, okay, and they're not going to get anywhere unless they have a relationship with the Native Americans, and they did. Clearly they did. And the Hooked X ideology is what they shared, this monotheistic dualism, this balance. And so they aligned strategically with the natives. They intermarried with the natives. They assimilated with the natives. That's why they had so much success here. So, but they did it in secret. And, this is the part of this giant chapter of unwritten history of this country that people don't understand. That's why I reached out to the natives, and I'm getting some good stuff. I will tell you that. I haven't shared any of it yet, but it's good stuff. My God!
Here's another question. This comes in from Demi, and he says, "What does Scott think the one language was before the Tower of Babel, and does he think it was a structure or a unified consciousness?"
Boy.
Wow.
That's a heavy one. I have to, this is one of those times, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I will say this, I'm open to anything, as long as people bring some evidence to the table. But, he's talking about an area that I don't know a lot about. I could speculate and tell you what I think, but I don't have much of a basis for it. So I'm just going to have to say that's a really good question. My answer is I really don't know.
Check this out. Just got this email. This is from Warren. He says, Jimmy, I have found a stone, looked like a small tombstone in Kentucky with a hooked X and unknown writing with the date of early 1500s. Sorry, I don't remember. I found this in the 70s, and it was stolen in the mid-80s. I always thought it was a headstone, but I have reconsidered it since hearing stories about the rune stone. Now, understand, my family is buried in the backyard of the family plantation, old homestead that dates back to the early 1700s, which is also an ancient Indian site, and I have found points and artifacts to prove this. There is, without saying, lots of history in that region, but that old hand-chiseled stone has always stuck in my mind. I will put you in touch with Warren, by the way. But that's pretty interesting, and maybe he could.
If he's got a picture of it or has any idea where it is, I want to see it. I really do. If it's got a hooked X on it, you can't say you got a hooked X and you can't show it to me because I'll be up at night. Come on.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch. I'll take care of that.
Cool.
Oh, where do we go now? I have so many things. Oh.
Don't forget the guide stone.
Well, let's do that, and let's not forget there was a few things today that I told you not to forget, and I've already forgotten them. So, but I do want
touched on a few of them,
but I do want to get to DIA and the Georgia Guidestones too.
All right.
Okay, and now I'm reminding you that you were supposed to remind me about those earlier today.
Okay.
The Guidestones.
Okay, the Guidestones. Well, we did an episode on the Guidestones that was part of the New World Order and the Denver airport and that whole thing. And I did that wonderful interview with, his name escapes me now, but the banker who helped finance the Guidestones, Wyatt Martin, who was just a delightful guy. And, when I went there, I knew he wasn't going to tell me the guy's name. I had to ask, but I knew he wasn't going to tell me. But anyway, there was a recent video that was posted and sent to me by a bunch of people about some guy taking a ladder, climbing up on the Guidestones, chipping out a stone, and that was inscribed with some numbers and some characters. some letters, and then he proceeds to break it up and destroy it. And everybody was outraged, saying, how could he do that? And then at the end of the video, they show this cop standing there.
Yep.
And so everybody's like, well, what's going on? Well, the answer is, I'm not sure what's going on, but what I think is going on is I think that's all a bunch of BS. And the reason I say that is because when I was at the Guidestones filming the episode, I took lots of photos, and I just went back tonight and looked at my photos. In that area where he pulled that stone out,
it was not there.
Empty. There's nothing there. And so whatever that was, I think it's a stunt to try to get people fired up, and I think it worked. But unless there's some other part of the story that I don't know, like maybe there was supposed to be something that was put up there earlier this year, and this guy decided to take it down and destroy it, I'm not aware of that. I think the whole thing was a stunt. That's my opinion, but
okay. Well, this is what I have discovered, and we can talk about more about this off the air. But me and my people here, also Freeman. I don't know if you know who Freeman is, of Freeman TV, but he's a great researcher. Lives in South Carolina, and he was the first guy to put the Guidestones on television. He went out, heard about them right after they were erected, and did his study on it.
Well, this is back in 1980. This is a long time ago.
Yes, it was. And so he went and looked at his pictures, and a bunch of the Fadernauts here went back and looked at some of the older pictures of the Guidestones. And apparently, again, this is just apparently, that notch, that little square on the face of the population stone, the one that has the 500 million population inscription on it.
Right, yeah, it's at the top of that one.
It's at the top, and that notch is there. It's empty. The 2014 block that we're talking about, because what was exposed were the numbers 20 on one side, and on the right side was the number 14.
Well, I think it was, I looked at it real briefly. I thought I saw 20, 16, 8.
Those are on other sides of the cube.
Other sides. And then there was
JAM on one side.
And then MM on the 6th side.
MM on the other side. So the numbers 20 and 14 were all that were visible after the stone.
It is 14, okay. I thought it was a 16.
There is 16 on another side of the cube. But
there is. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But what you could see from the Guidestones, what caused all of the fervor last week when the stone first appeared, was the numbers 20 and 14. That's what you could see. So now, what I'm curious about is you're absolutely right. The guy went up on the ladder, chiseled the stone out, and threw it down on the ground. Then immediately went down. You're right. There was some law enforcement there. And there was about, I'm going to say maybe a dozen people, maybe 20 people that were witnessing.
It was hard to tell. There was a couple of girls there that were shown on the video, but you could tell there was other people there, yeah.
But he immediately, which was shocking to me, destroyed the evidence. He came down, took his brick chisel and a hammer and chipped it apart and threw the pieces out to the people in the crowd.
Yeah, he started giving them to people. I mean, that's just with I mean, unless that guy was an actor dressed up as a cop, if that's a real cop, it's either got to be a stunt or it's a stunt. There's no way he's going to let some guy go up there and do that. But my question is, when was that thing put up there? Because in June of 2013, which is when I took my photos, that hole was empty. And you're saying back in 1980 it was empty. I bet you if you looked at photos throughout the years, you'll see that it was empty. I don't know why that notch is there. None of the others have that notch.
None of the others have the notch. None of the others do. And the stone showed up last week. So it was showed up and then removed within a day or two. And that's when the guy went back. After it showed up, a couple of days later, he went back and removed the stone. What I'm curious about...
I think the whole thing is a setup.
I totally agree. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. When you were there in 2013, how many video cameras and security systems did you see around the Guidestones?
0.
Zero. Now it's completely monitored by the local police. It's been vandalized so much now. Now there's security cameras, and it's monitored 24/7 by the police right down the street.
Well, this must have just been installed.
And they didn't see anybody going up on a ladder and installing, with mortar, concrete, and installing that cube.
You know what? I'll have to be honest with you. I work in the concrete industry. I know a lot about this topic of concrete, cement, mortar, grout, all that stuff. You could put that in 2 minutes. If you got it all pre-mixed, you just go up there with a little trowel, you throw it. The cube wasn't very big. I mean, and if this thing's a setup, he could have put it in there, and then he was probably the same guy that took it out.
I thought the same thing, actually. I thought it's probably the same guy that put it in is now removing it, and this is some kind of stunt. And if it was a criminal act, some type of, if you want to consider it a criminal act of adding a stone would be vandalism. I don't know if it is, but certainly that's evidence. And then you're just going to destroy the evidence in front of the police. Shouldn't there be a concern from somebody somewhere that we need to preserve this evidence? And whether you're going to prosecute somebody or not, that's one thing. But let's take the time to decipher it and figure out how was the stone made, who made it, where was it made, or is it just a big stunt?
Well, you know what I think is I think that it is all a big stunt to draw attention to the guidestones. I mean, for all we know, this could be, a well-planned stunt by the local community there to try to draw attention to get people to come and see this thing to help pump a little juice into the community, a little attention and money. I mean, why not? I mean, it's a brilliant idea. We're talking about it, and because there was nothing there before, from a legal standpoint, how can they be prosecuted for something that wasn't there? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Unless there's more information that there was an official ceremony and they put it up there and, it was there for some reason, and they put this is all part of a carefully crafted plan. They want us to look at the letters. Ooh, is that Mary Magdalene? JM, JAM, what is that? And, what do these numbers mean? And, it's some big thing and everybody gets all spun up. Who cares? Just come down here and look at it and spend money in our community.
Tourism.
It's all about the mighty buck, isn't it?
Could be. Okay, I've opened up the phone lines. Let's go. 323-825-5045. We were speaking with Scott Wolter. And here we go. Let's take our first call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Scott Wolter. Who's calling? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Steve from Bluefield.
Steve, say hi to Scott.
How's it going, Scott?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing fine, buddy.
I
got a question for you, Scott, real quick. Hey, when you done the show on the Giants up in Minnesota on the bones.
Yep.
Why didn't you all just dig the bones up then?
Because
what was the deal with not just going ahead and digging it back up and seeing what was there?
Because I would have been thrown in jail.
Okay, hold on, one at a time. Go ahead, Scott.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Steve. The reason we didn't dig it up is because we would have been thrown in jail. And I'm sure that the state archaeologist, Scott Amfinson, would have been more than happy to press charges against me because he's not a big fan. The simple answer is it was illegal. We couldn't dig it up. So we tried the rods, and GPR would not work because it was too deep for the type of GPR they have to try to get the detailed information about the size of the skeleton. But believe me, it wasn't because I didn't want to. I just couldn't.
Are you going to follow up?
We actually have done a little bit of follow-up on this, and we have been stonewalled.
What?
And I really got to be careful what I say in this instance because I got pretty aggressive with our state archaeologist, and he basically told everybody that was part of it just not to talk to me.
Smithsonian.
Did the farmer just not have any say in what was on his property?
No. No. If you have a burial mound, a Native American burial mound on your property, you cannot do anything about it. It's not yours anymore. You can never develop that property, and if he dug that up, he would have been put in jail.
Interesting. And that goes. Is that in every state? Is that a federal situation?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's a federal law.
Right. Steve, anything else?
Did they have people that come out and check the burial site? Because I'm assuming this was a pretty good size farm.
Once it's on record, and they knew that we were doing a show on it, you can bet your fanny they were watching us. Yeah.
Well, it was the same thing with Arizona. The same thing. Once the cat was out of the bag, you guys couldn't do anything until you had clearance.
That's right. Yeah. And the way that they write these laws are very clever. They kind of get you damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, the way they write these laws. So,
right.
In the case of the giant episode there, Roger, he accidentally dug this up. He was trying to get some sand, to use on his property from these mounds, and that's how he found the skeleton. So they can't prosecute him for that. It was an honest mistake. But if he went back in there again after being warned, now you're breaking a federal law.
Thank you, Steve.
And they would prosecute, I guarantee you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for the time, bud.
All the best,
no problem, man. Thanks for calling.
Let's go to Dino. Dino, how are you tonight?
Oh, good evening. Hi. How's everybody? How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good.
Okay. Well, before I got into my thing, you've brought up so many things. I just want the Fadernauts to know there's a current Nova episode currently airing on PBS about MH370. Okay, so I'll step into your subject area now. I don't know much about it. Unfortunately, I haven't watched your program. It's on cable somewhere?
It's on H2. Reruns are running now, but our new season starts on November 8th. That's a Saturday night at 8 o'clock Central Time, and that's my time zone, so that's what I'm paying attention to. But our Season 3 starts then, so you'll catch some great episodes, but you can catch the reruns if you want. I know they're online, or you can buy them, whatever.
I'm just glad that you're not. I'm just glad that you're not going up against our new show. We're not. That would just blow. That would just. I mean, can you just imagine?
Come on, let's do
it. We don't air until January. Okay, Dino, what's the question?
Well, I don't have too many intelligent questions. I just need to comment, and you might want to talk further. All these issues you bring up about the Smithsonian stonewalling, and trying to divert your research is the same thing we hear about the alphabet black agencies when we deal with the extraterrestrial phenomenon. It's the same thing that we heard about in history. The Jesuits, when the Jesuits had the black ships going to Japan before anybody else apparently knew how to get there. The Knights Templar, I'm not quite clear, were they associated with the Jesuits?
well, this is part of it.
There's just been so many of these things that go on where they seem to block, and then I start thinking about the Bigfoot researchers, and that some of them are as honest and trying to be as straight on as you, and yet they get stonewalled about, no, the DNA doesn't match, and so it seems like the same phenomenon.
Oh yeah, I mean it happens in every arena, and I'm sure that if we had scholars who would be honest and felt like they could speak freely, I'm sure we would hear some amazing horror stories, because in these situations, everybody has their own story. We don't know what their experience has been. We don't know why they do certain things. We can make assumptions, and we can say that they're behaving badly, but some of them may have been threatened. Some of them, there's all kinds of possibilities for why people do things. And I know I've spoken to some academics and some former students who said, look, I was told flat out, if you pursue this line of research, You're not going to get your degree. You will never get a job in this industry. Don't go there. And so there's a lot of different situations out there. I just hate to believe that there's this, large-scale conspiracy that, there are certain taboo subjects and there's guys in black suits that go around and make sure that people don't address them. I don't think that's the case, but boy, the way some of these things unfold and the way they get handled by these people,
there's a track record, and that's it. Hey, Dino, anything else really quick?
Well, I just wanted to say that the NSA must not care about this subject because they haven't cut us off tonight.
Thank you, Dino. All the best, brother.
Bye.
And we were talking about this earlier today, but it for me, it's almost a phenomenon. If you go back and you look, I was going to say prior to 1920, it occurs today too as well, but all of these really cool, significant finds that were groundbreaking, not only with the giants across the United States, but just other crazy things that were awesome, like the caves in the Grand Canyons, or anything that was significant that was a paradigm shift. You read the initial newspaper article with a reporter that reports on the find. Maybe there's a photograph, maybe there's not, but there it is. It's reported. At the bottom of the article, time and time again, it's the same thing. And then the Smithsonian showed up. Yeah. And then that's the last you hear of the story.
Well, and let's just kind of look at the other hand for a second, or the other side. Let's say down in those caves in the Grand Canyon, the Ark of the Covenant is there. Or, the Templar treasure is sitting in a place, and let's say you find it. Because we've had this discussion, myself and some other researchers. What if we found the Templar treasure, and there were scrolls there, there was gold, there were remains, there was technology, there was whatever you want to call it. Who owns that? Who does that belong to? And if you did find something like that, what are you going to do with it? I mean, if the Ark of the Covenant was found, and it really does have magical powers and is able to have unlimited energy or whatever it supposedly has, and I'm just throwing out a what if.
Sure.
What do you do with that? I mean, does the government feel that, this is the kind of thing it has eminent domain on? I mean, we are the only ones capable of handling this. Or if it's treasure, the government, it belongs to everyone, so we'll take care of it. We got it. These are fair questions, and honestly, I don't know what the answer is. And there is a situation that we're working on where we think there could be a significant repository of stuff, and part of the reason we're hesitating is, what are we going to do if we find it? I mean, we've kind of come to the conclusion we're not going to do anything. We just want to answer the question for ourselves, and then we just seal it back up and leave it there. Because what are you going to do with it?
Is there going to be something like this in season 3?
Not this particular thing that I'm talking about. No. Maybe season 4.
Something that is there something in season 3 that you could get in trouble for? So the answer is yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm really thinking. I don't think so. We're gonna piss some people off, I'm sure, but but there's gonna be just as many people who are gonna be thrilled. So probably more that'll be thrilled, but there'll be some that won't be happy. But tough hop, yeah.
This just came in.
It is what it is.
Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045. This just came in from Eugene. He says, ask Scott what he knows about the Yellowstone super caldera and when he believes it will erupt. Are we really 200 years overdue?
Look, if I knew when that thing was going to erupt, I'd be in Vegas right now. Yes, I'm aware of it. the thing about these volcanic situations is when you have a violent eruption, it's when they get plugged up. And geologically, you can kind of tell what environments that's going to happen in geologically. It typically happens when you have a very sticky type of lava that doesn't flow very well, and it gets stuck and pressure builds up, and then boom. And we do have a kind of a situation like that there, but it's not your classic situation that you typically see. So I'm not as worried about some massive, giant, world-altering eruption that's going to happen there. But I do think we're going to see some more tectonic activity there. And, who knows? I mean, on the other hand, I could be wrong, and it could blow tomorrow, and you're going to all think I'm stupid. But, nature often does give us warning signs, but only she knows when she's going to go. So,
okay, let's just
stay
keep
tuned.
Here we go. Check this out. This is a good question. Does Scott think there may be an element of racism against natives, which is also covered up by the Smithsonian?
Well, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, I've been called racist many times because I've suggested that other cultures had something to do with megalithic structures or artifacts and things that have been found, in what is now native territory, which I don't even understand the argument. How racist? What do you mean by that?
Right.
But I think the argument is that, by saying that this is not Native American, that, you're not giving them enough credit for what they could do. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's racist. I mean, this is a Paleo-Hebrew inscription. I don't think the natives did that. I just don't. And if that's being racist, well, then I guess I'm racist.
I did read some of that. We don't need to go into it, but I remember reading it and going, I don't quite. And I'm an open-minded guy, and if somebody's being racist, I'm going to be all over that. I have zero tolerance for people that are racist or bigots or homophobes or any of that stuff. I just don't have time for it. I mean, I live in Minnesota. Are you kidding me? And I've been a ball player. I've played with every race, every creed, every color, everything you can imagine. And I get along with everybody because everybody has something to offer. And the whole thing with diversity to me is wonderful. Keep track of your own kitchen. Do your own stuff, keep your own nose clean, and stop worrying about everybody else and trying to tell everybody else how to be. My God, I can barely keep track of my own crap, let alone trying to run everybody else's lives. You should see how many times Smithsonian has been tweeted tonight. I wonder if there's a way to check that. Here's another one. He says, Scott's story solidifies all the rumors about the Smithsonian, about the Kincaid expeditions of 1909. Yeah.
Well, we have not gotten down there yet, and we don't know what's there. I just find it a little convenient that they just won't let you go down there. Well, why don't you do a public thing and invite everybody in the nation on television with the Smithsonian channel and go down there and do it right? Bring some neutral parties, neutral observers. If you'll bring me down there, and I'll go with you, and let's see what's there. And if there's nothing there, I'll say it. If there's something there, I'll say it. But, why keep this veil of secrecy hidden? Because if you're going to keep it hidden, there's got to be a reason. There's a reason why they're doing this. And if you can't be open about it, then you're hiding something. That's the only thing a logical person can conclude. So pull back the veil. I mean, let's just do it. Aren't you curious yourself, or do you already know?
Have you ever thought about trying to do something in Washington? Is there a way to, do like what Stephen Bassett did? The citizens' hearings on UFOs. I mean, have you ever thought about that? A direct confrontation, or even can you take the Smithsonian to court?
Well, these are all great ideas. I think, and I'll be honest with you, part of my motivation for wanting to do this show in the very beginning was to try to get people fired up to, look at what I see. Because, look, this stuff isn't magic. It's not rocket science, I mean, some of it gets to be complicated, but some of it is pretty straightforward. I mean, the Back Creek Stone, you guys found it. The Smithsonian published it. What do you want us to do? But if enough people get interested and upset and start asking questions, and really you have to go through political channels. But it's like the political process. If enough people stand up and contact their politicians and speak out, politicians straighten up and they fly right. But when we just sit there in our malaise and we don't care, we don't get involved, they do what they want. And I don't think it's any different in this arena. I think if enough people speak up and say, hey, look, I want to know the truth about what's in the Grand Canyon. I want you guys to be, held accountable for the Bat Creek Stone. Look, if you're going to question this one, you got to question it all. You can't pick and choose which ones you're going to complain about based on what's found. It doesn't work that way, okay? So, at some point, somebody's got to, we the people have got to stand up and say, enough of this crap. If we're supposed to be an open society, then let's open it up. And you know what? On the other hand, too, okay, let's say the Jews were here. Let's say the Celts were here, the Vikings were here, the Templars were here. It's like when the dirty little secrets come out in the family, it's shocking at first, but then it kind of goes away, right? It's like, okay, well, yeah, you cheated on your whatever. And then the shock is over, and then you get on with your lives. Is it really going to change our world? Well, to be honest with you, probably will.
Yeah, financially, yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. You start accepting one or two of these things, and then the dominoes start to fall.
Right.
And those dominoes are going to go to places that they don't want to go. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
That's
Lloyd's
part
of London.
too.
Lloyd's of London will come up with a 500-year-old insurance policy on a ship that was supposed to go up the Mississippi River, and they're going to lay claim on everything that was mined for the last 500 years.
Yeah, well, they'll do that, but I'll tell you what else they'll do. You remember that little 5-question thing we did?
Yes.
Those dominoes are going to go there.
I can't wait.
When they do, holy crap.
My producers have said to me 5 times, I let you off too easy. Keep pushing. Get to question number 7.
Oh, my God, look at the time. Jeez.
Got to go, Jimmy. I'm cooking. Okay, let's end it on a couple of really cool things. I do want to I want to talk about Denver International Airport. And when I first started to hear when you start to hear conspiracy theories and ideas about stuff like this, you look at it twofold. One, you want it to absolutely be true because it's cool. It's like, wow, really? Oh, that's cool. That's amazing. Really, they pulled that off. Or the other side is, oh, come on, it's just a bunch of crap. Now, when I started getting into DIA, I really went in rolling my eyes. I really did. I have flown in and out of DIA more times than I can count. And I'm talking about literally hundreds of flights. And it's one of my favorite airports. And I know the airport really, really well. It's got a great shopping mall. You can smoke upstairs. I got a smoking. The place is just killer. It's awesome. But to think that this is existing underneath, you have to understand where the airport sits. And I've driven and gone there so many times and flown in and out. It's remote. It's on a chunk of land that doesn't make sense. It's on the outside of Denver. The old airport was easy to get to. This new one is insane. And so I jumped into the story. And the more that I found out, the creepier it got. So what did you find?
Well, I mean, I found a completely dysfunctional airport, I can tell you that, with a $1 billion baggage system that's completely mothballed. And I remember when all this stuff unfolded. And, the bottom line is that I think her name was Stacy, who was my guide on that. I can't remember. That's so long ago now. But I found her to be... I thought she was forthcoming. I mean, some people told me, I don't believe a word she says. Well, I did. And I thought she was as forthcoming as she could be. She let me go wherever I want. There was only one place where it looked like there could be something else, and I asked her about it. It's where these baggage system rails went straight down a big hole into another level, and she explained, well, that goes down here and it returns over here, and I went over and it looked like it did. Maybe it disappeared into some underground system, but I don't know. But for that matter, there could easily have been, some other doorways that led to something. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked at all if there was a secret underground something there. And, there's a part of me that goes, geez, I'd sure like to know that. But on the other hand, part of me goes, okay, so what? They got an underground bunker there that, maybe for military purposes or for whatever, I don't know if it's that big of a deal, really. I mean, the only thing about that, I would hope that our government has underground military installations that are protected, that if something ever bad happened, we got a place to go and take care of it, But do we need to know everything about what's happening in this country? I would say there's a good argument that no, we shouldn't. I think that the military and certain branches of the government are doing things that they feel is in our best interest. It's a slippery slope, of course, but they're going to do some things in secret, and there's nothing we can do about it. Is it happening at the Denver airport? I didn't see anything that looked fishy to me. But
did you feel
there certainly could be more there that I didn't see.
Right. Did you feel anything a little slippery? Did you feel? Did you cop a vibe, or are you saying? No, you're coming away clean.
Honest to God, I did not. But that doesn't mean that I'm right. But I've got pretty good spidey sense. I can pick up, at least I think I can, when people are being evasive or they're hiding something. And
well, isn't that
you do get a vibe from somebody? I did not get that from her at all.
What about that painting? That painting is full of symbology.
Well, yeah, but I think people have overanalyzed that thing to death. I think it's a pretty straightforward message from an artist who feels like I do, quite frankly, about the world. I think we're at a critical juncture here, and we've been on a bad path for a long time. And, and I'll tell you what, when I was in that sweat lodge, I heard about it from the natives. They're worried about Mother Earth. They're worried about what we're doing to our planet. And if anybody's paying even a little bit of attention, how can you not agree with that? We've got 7 billion people on this planet, and we can't keep going like this. We can't. And and I'm not suggesting that we kill people or anything like that, but we have to be smarter about,
with what we have
about
left.
What we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, this will be the last phone call of the night. You're live with Scott Wolter. Say hi to Scott.
Hi, Scott. This is Bear in Santa Clara.
Hi,
and
Bear.
I was wondering if you've ever heard or looked into the Chinese junks off of the Washington coast there.
Coastline? Well, I've looked into... Well, by the way, hi, Darren.
No, Bear. Bear. B-E-A-R, Bear.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bear. I thought he said Darren. Bear, you're not the Bear in Canada, are you?
No.
Okay, never mind. There's another guy that I know, his name is Bear, and he lives in Canada.
San Jose.
San Jose.
Okay, I think you said that. That's right. But anyway,
California.
I haven't looked at the ones off of Washington, but I have looked at the ones off of Southern California, the coast of California. And what I've looked at, not the junks, but these large stones that are believed to be anchor stones that were left by these Chinese junks that came here. And some people say they've been coming here since before Columbus. And Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do much with them because the sea life and the sea urchins and the have attacked the surface of these things to the point where there's no original surfaces left. So there's no way I could do anything as far as dating goes. But with regard to the Chinese coming to America before Chris, I say a big yes on that. I'd say
they found some of the
yes.
actual junks in the some of the harbors there that have actually sunk, and this goes back probably 30 years ago that I heard about it.
Well, I have not heard about the ship, but
went back
I would
before Columbus.
Hold on, guys. One at a time.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Bear.
From what I heard, is they went way before Christopher Columbus ever came to the Americas.
Bear, thank you for the question. I actually have a couple of comments on that. Thank you, Bear.
Yeah, I would say
have a good one tonight to the crew, and Scott, be well.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
We were talking about that earlier, and my comment is, with the ocean currents that are coming over from, Russia, China, Japan, pretty much, you could jump in an inner tube, with some food, and you're going to end up in San Francisco.
Oh boy!
I mean, you don't have to navigate. You don't. You're going to get deposited there.
If you have enough food and the proper vessel, it's really not difficult at all. We did do our season-ending episode last season was about the Polynesians coming to America, and with regard to the Chinese, we've got an episode that touches on that this season. And I was in China. We had a fantastic time. It's a great episode. Watch it. So I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to tip my hand on this one, but we touch on this subject at great length.
It's only obvious. It is. I mean, I don't want to sound stupid here, but it is just obvious. The ocean currents are there.
You're not stupid. You're right.
Yeah.
It is obvious. I totally agree.
It's one of the easiest routes to navigate on planet Earth, and getting back is another issue. It is, but as far as going from there to here, jump in the water and go. That's the bottom line.
You know what, Jimmy? Here's the thing about ocean currents and winds and all this. If you've got one current going this way and water moving that way, the water that is moving has to be replaced.
It's got to displace.
Which means that you have cycles. So if it's going this way here, it's going that way somewhere else. So all you have to do is find it. And the same route that you took, the same way you got there, you find the right current and the winds, it's got to go the other way too. It's all about balance, and it's not magic. It's science is what it is, and technology, and figuring out how to navigate and where the currents are. And these people were master sailors. The Chinese were incredible. Oh, wait till you see what we learned in the episode. God, I'd love to tell you, but I just can't.
That's 4 times in one show you've done that.
I'm sorry, man.
Well, hey, really quick, and thank you for hanging out for an extra 15 minutes. As everybody knows, in 10 minutes, I'm literally in a car with Rita.
I know.
We're taking off.
You.
No.
I want to make sure I thank you for having me, man. I really, really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
I can't wait to do it again. And I'm going to wait. What I want to do is I'm going to wait till a couple of these episodes air and I get good and infuriated and the rest of the internet is blowing up. And then we'll bring you back, and then we'll talk about some of the episodes that just aired, and we'll pick those apart. What's coming up for you now? Are you speaking anywhere? What are you doing right now? Are you just playing flag football?
I've got a few speaking engagements. Week after, I think, end of next week, I fly down to Texas, where I'm speaking at a conference with a bunch of people. And actually, I was recommended by the guy who owns the company that did the LiDAR work. Jamie, I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, Jamie. But anyway, he recommended me. I'll be speaking to a big group there. I'm speaking to...
well, what are you going to speak on?
Well, I haven't figured it out yet. I think I'm going to talk about the big three, and then because I'm in Texas, I might talk about the rock wall down there. That's big down there. And just tell them a few fun stories. I've been speaking lately, and I've got some fun stories about things that have happened on the show. And I'll tell you what, this has been such a wonderful experience. We've got such a great crew. And I'll tell you what, if you watch the show, if you don't like me, that's fine. If you don't like the subject matter, that's fine. But you cannot say the show doesn't look good. They do an amazing job with the production. It's well done. It's well edited. And it looks great. I'm just lucky as I just can't believe that I've had this experience. And if this ends up being the last season, I'm so thankful and grateful, and I've had so much fun. And I hope we've made a difference. But if they allow us to keep going, we'll keep going.
And what was you started to mention a second speaking engagement. What's after Texas?
I'm trying to remember what the other one is. I'm going down. I forget now.
Oh, it's
in
late.
November. I can't remember, but my wife does all the scheduling, and I just take care of what's in front of me the next day. It's just like life is such a whirlwind. But I'm working on a new book, and we continue to do research. Even though I'm not doing the show, I'm doing my own research lines, and we're finding amazing stuff. And that little thing we talked about earlier, the 5 questions.
Right.
Stay tuned.
I can't wait.
It's going to be huge.
I can't wait. Thank you, Scott. Give my best to Janet. Tell her thank you. We worked on, as you know, this is 3 months coming to get you on the show, and so thank you so much. I had such a great time, and again, November 8th, season 3, America Unearthed History, and H2. And as soon as we get a couple of episodes in, we'll get you back, and we'll go toe to toe. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thanks again for having me, Jimmy. And anytime you want me, I'm there.
You got it. Thank you, Scott. And when you come to California, you can come hang out with us.
All right, sounds good.
I'll talk to you. Thank you, Scott.
All right, take care.
Scott Wolter, everybody. Wow. Now, I've got to wind down. I'm going to take a quick break, and I've got to make sure that the car is outside of the studio. I'll be back in a minute. And we're rolling out of here, man. We're going to head to Columbus. This is Fade to Black. Thank you, Scott. That was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'll be back right after this. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? My name's Brian Taylor, Ninja Badass Extraordinaire, and this is JimmyChurchRadio.com.
JJCR in your face.
JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I'll say this now. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes. I know it's a little premature, but thank you for that. It means a lot. And also tomorrow, since we won't be here, John Lennon's birthday is tomorrow. And Renee pointed that out to me today. But, yeah, how could we, so we would have announced it tomorrow anyway, so we're just going to do that. Tomorrow's John Lennon's birthday. But thank you for all of the birthday wishes, and thank you, everybody, wishing us a safe trip and a safe journey. We're going to have a good time heading out. And it is my brother David is getting married and to a lovely woman named Brittany. And there you go. So that's what we will be doing. Now, I wanted to touch upon, and I forget what was it. I can't believe I forgot what I was about to say, and I guess it doesn't matter. Oh. I just got an email from somebody that I've been trying to get on the show for a long time, and he just sent me an email. And this is a big one. Biggin. If you can imagine what we went through this week, I'm going to set this up for Monday, and I'm elated. I'm elated, and let's just say this: there's 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 godfathers of ufology. The guys, the torchbearers, the flag wavers, the kings, and this is one of them. And it looks like he just said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. You pick the day next week." So I'm picking the day now for Monday. Totally shocked. Totally cool. And that one, that took a long time, but there you go. So that will be Monday. That's about it. That's all I've got. I'm trying. I can't say, Leslie. I can't say who it is. Hey, I did want to say this. I was just actually going to end and say good night, and we will be in touch. Gonna, of course, we'll tweet and Facebook pictures, and it's not like we're going to be out of touch. But Scott and L.A. Marzulli, Graham Hancock this week. These are 3 guys that I respect and I look up to. And when questions come about these 3 guys, and people want to question and debunk and be skeptics and go against it just irritates me. All 3, and Rick Shaw too. Rick's the director, but these 3 guys this week, they're not the only 3, but these 3 guys this week, these are people that we need to support. These are people that we need to continually support and have their back. It is very, very important to question everything and to look back and not accept the status quo. It is so very important. And when I sit, you sit and listen to Scott or Graham or LA for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and you just find out when you hear these guys talk direct, these guys are about as honest and straightforward and inquisitive as anybody, as they should be. And that's what this show is about. That's what I am about. And I hope that you cop that vibe from everybody that is on this show. And this week was a classic example of our mission statement. All right. With that, we are out of here. I'm going to jump in a car. I'm going to go hang out with my family, with Rita. We're going to have a great time. We'll be in touch. Coming up next is After Hours AM. Thank you, Scott Wolter. You are the man. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, and Les Johnson III. Special thanks to Renee, too. Fady is by Dale Romero. Graphics by Method of Signaling. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Music is by Doug Aldrich. Intro is by Spaceboy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am your humble host, Jimmy Church. Be safe, everybody. See ya.